Hello and welcome to Staying Home, the revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. I'm Josh Fox. We call this program Staying Home because back in the day when coronavirus first started, when we were only 300 years old, Jesus, this has been going on forever. We call this Staying Home because we were urging people to stay home so that they didn't get sick, so they didn't get the coronavirus. And staying home now, I think, means something different, means something greater. It means the sense of home that we get from who we are. Stay with who you are. It's so hard to do when you're just locked away from all your friends. And the thing that I'm worried about the most when we talk about the coronavirus is that I'm very worried that our homes, our cities, the places where our culture is born are going to be just swept away. You see behind me, I have added a scythe to the wall, the great Grim Reaper symbol. But I'm worried that a scythe is coming, an economic scythe is coming for all of our venues and all of our artists and all of our musicians. And it's going to remap where we make art. And maybe it won't be New York City. Maybe it'll be upstate on some farm. Maybe we'll find new collective forms. Maybe we'll find new ways of doing this that aren't so dependent on some of the financial structures that we've had in the past, because we're seeing all of that get swept away. We're seeing it happen intentionally as well, which really hurts me. It hurts me as we know that there's some kind of intentionality behind the horror that the Republican Party is visiting on our nation and saying, we're not going to give anybody any assistance. We're going to let them starve. We're going to let their clubs and their music venues and their theaters go out of business. We're going to watch the small businesses go out of business. And all that wealth will be accumulated back up to the top. Well, what I'm going to tell you is this. We've got to stay home in our own morals and in our own values. And we have to fight for our arts institutions. Because the more they consolidate wealth and power, the more we consolidate soul, the more we consolidate emotion, the more we consolidate righteousness, the more we consolidate our will to justice and our will to create art. That's what we've got to do now. So our program today is about caring, deep caring, right? How do we care about each other? How do we care for our own roots, for our own culture? And how do we make sure that we don't get swept away in this horrifying tide? We've got to stay home to not get sick, to not die. But we've also got to be at home inside of ourselves. We have to say, look, I'm not going down because of Donald Trump. I'm not going down because of Mitch McConnell. I'm not going down because these people will not get an aid package together for us. We are going to be resilient. We're going to create new things. We're going to create new ways. We're going to create a new type of energy on this planet. I can feel it happening. I feel it happening. I feel the cocoon to the butterfly. I feel a contemplativeness. I feel people getting down deep into their roots. I feel it. I feel new things being created, new forms of art being created. And that's why this program is so special today. Because we're going to talk about creating new things and defending the things that we have. Out of the Great Depression, when everyone lost so many things, we saw the birth of American theater. We saw the birth of so many of movements. We are facing that challenge now to give birth to that new thing. And I think that if we're all tasked with that, that often means that we have to have something inside that you come back to. As Tim DeChristopher said, if you're carrying around a heavy weight, which a lot of people do, a lot of activists do, a lot of artists carrying around this heavy, heavy weight. In good times, that can feel like a burden. But in stormy times, that heavy weight that you carry around, it can become the thing that anchors you. It can become the thing that grounds you. It can become the thing that roots you down and makes you sure you don't blow and fall apart and blow away in the wind. So this weight that we have, we have to find a new reality that's coming out of this moment of staying home, of being with ourselves, of being introspective. That's what I think. But we also have to fight for justice. We have to fight for our great civic spaces. So it's both. It's both. It's us being with ourselves and understanding that we have to fight, but it's also us understanding that our cities are worth fighting for, our art spaces are worth fighting for, our music is worth fighting for. So that's what our show's about today. And it's Friday. Okay, so Don, we're back. It
Yeah,
seems
man.
like the week has gone so quickly.
The week has flown by. And by the way, this past Monday was my 29th anniversary,
29th anniversary. Wow.
wedding anniversary.
Wow. 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 That's amazing. What's your secret?
I just don't get in her way.
Well, that
That's
that's a
that's the
great
best.
one.
Hey, no, man. We like each other. That's the biggest
That's
thing,
the
man.
main thing, right?
You gotta
You
like
actually
each
like
other,
each
man.
other as well as love each other.
They keep saying
You
love.
have to have both, right?
I
You have to
know, man.
actually like each other as well as love each other. There's
Yeah,
people who I've been in love with in my life that I didn't like, and there's people that were in love with me that didn't like me. I think
yeah.
it's a weird thing.
It is. It is. But when it's right, it's not something you really got to work at, because I mean, if you go into it with the right attitude, man, like a commitment. I always used to say all through the years, I'd say, we have to remember what we were feeling when we got married. Now, if you don't feel that anymore, then it's cool. I understand. But that's it. If you got to remember why you did it.
Hmm. But I think what you said was the right thing. I think you have to like each other
Yeah.
because I think love is like a trance. It's like a thing that happens to you. The most powerful force on earth. But then love also can do you wrong. And at the bottom of it, if you like the person, I like what you said. Like if it's right, you don't have to work at it.
Yeah, that's right.
I see a lot of my friends in these relationships, and they call me and they say, "Josh, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing this and everything? Should I do that? Should I do this?" And there's all this like constant. And I say, I remember when I was like this because it was not right.
Man, there's a whole bunch of dysfunctional love songs.
Well, they're all dysfunctional love songs, right? If it
Yeah.
wasn't for the love and the dysfunction of love, would we have Shakespeare? Would we have the love songs? Would we have the great poems? Would we? I don't think we would.
No, man.
No, I mean,
That's
if it was all good and everything was fine, I mean,
right.
so much you wouldn't need all that
I mean,
creativity and passion.
Smokey Robinson's my favorite one. I don't
Tears of a clown.
I don't like you, but I love you.
Well, that's what I was just saying. I didn't know Smokey. I was quoting Smokey
Seems like I'm
Robinson.
always thinking of you. This is way
I
back,
feel
man.
really lucky that I'm with a person right now who I not only love but I also like.
That's good, man.
It's profound.
I feel the same
It's the
about you,
first
bro.
time in a long time that it's been like that.
I feel the same about you, man.
Well, Don, I wasn't talking about you,
All right.
but I mean,
That's all
I'll
right, man.
consider it. I know that on your, I mean, I don't want you to,
I'm
I want to
messing
get you
with
in
you, bro.
trouble on your 29th
I'm
anniversary
messing with you,
week.
man.
Yes, I know.
Okay, cool.
Well, are we going to have a love song? What are we talking about?
Actually, I really think we've got some connection, man, because what you talked about
Uh-huh.
is in this song that I wrote today
All right.
for this. I mean, it's crazy because I called you a while back and said, "Well, man, what's the theme?" And you said, "I don't know," or "It's vote," and then and just vote. We got to vote. But then I don't know, man. It's like it just happens. So
Hmm.
this song is called "I Care About You."
I love it. I'm ready.
So
Wait, maybe I should do the station break first. And then we'll be right back with I Care About You because we care about you. We care about you. We care about this audience. That's why we do this, right? Because we care about people listening to these conversations. We care about spreading information, spreading love, and spreading like and spreading care. So you're tuned in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. We'll be right back with Don Vappy's I Care About You. And we're back. Don Vappy's I Care About You, the song of the week coming to you from New Orleans.
yeah, you're right. I care about you, but do you care about me? If you go back far enough, you'd see we all come from the same family tree. I wish you could care about me at least as much as I care about you. I guess that's the Christian in me. Where's the Christian in you? People going hungry, people getting sick, people losing hope. We got to do something quick, because we all share this earth, we all share the planet. It belongs to us all, no one man can claim it. 'Cause I care about you, but do you care about me? If you go back far enough, you'd see we all come from the same family tree. I wish you could care about me at least as much as I care about you. I guess that's the Christian in me. Now where's the Christian in you? You know, we've got to take care of the land. We've got to take care of the water. Time is getting short, so don't tell me we should, we could, we ought to. Because I care about you. But do you care about me? If you go back far enough, you'd see we all come from the same family tree. I wish you could care about me at least as much as I care about you. I guess that's the Christian me. Now where's the Christian in you? Where's the Christian in you?
Mr. Don Vappy from the great city of New Orleans. You know, I'm Jewish, and I even that got me so deep. I'm going to send that to every single person that I block on Twitter.
It was sort of the hypocrisy of people saying Christian, and all religions, none of them advocate violence and threats, and I mean, it hurts me when I see that, man.
Right.
It hurts me, and I'm concerned about us for the next few months.
I am too. I'm very concerned about these angry white supremacists who have an incredible amount of weaponry, and they seem to be willing to use it. We all are in a state of jeopardy when you have violent extremists who are part of a racist ideology, who are now saying that they're willing to take up arms, and it is very, very scary. So this is a terrific anthem. You just wrote this?
Yeah, about an hour
Don,
ago.
you're on fire. You're on fire. You're writing a song every week, man. It's unbelievable. We're going to have to put this out as a record. We're going to have to. And for everybody who wants to hear more Don Vappy, I encourage you to go back every Friday. We have the Song of the Week with Don. Go listen to all these songs. They're extraordinary. You just keep topping yourself every week. All right, we'll see you next time. There it is. Say hi to the wife from me.
I will.
The wife and cats.
Yeah,
Bye.
Exactly.
All right. As Don Vappy has just demonstrated, art is what makes the world go round. It's what makes life worth living. And right now, the arts are completely under attack and falling apart because of COVID and because we don't have government assistance for small theaters and small bars and music venues and all venues of all kinds and actors and everybody in the world who makes art is suffering because there's no live audiences. There's no events. We have with us as our next guest Erez Ziv, who is from Frigid, which is an umbrella organization that runs several downtown theaters in New York City. Theaters, of course, which are dark right now because you can't have social distancing in a theater which is the size of a matchbox. It's not possible. And our wonderful, so many of our incredible venues in New York City have been the tiniest, tiniest little places, right? Places where you saw incredible work that seated 50 people or 100 people. Or had a stage that was 12 feet wide. I remember, some of those great rock and roll clubs. So, Erez, thank you so much for being on the program. Let's talk a little bit about what needs to happen next to keep our culture from falling apart.
Well, we need help. We need help. It would be wonderful if we had a federal government that was interested at all in helping, in doing their job. But they're not. They're not at all. There's bills all over the place, and none of them are passing. They're not talking about anything except for Amy Coney Barrett, and they
right.
come back to do that, and then they're going to disappear again. And I don't. It's just baffling to me how.
But there have been some at the state level, right? Like cancel rent, save our stages. Talk a bit about those efforts in New York specifically, and how they can be a template for the nation.
Yeah. So, in New York, we have cancel rent. Cancel rent is a specifically New York movement at the moment. And that also will require some federal assistance, most likely. It's going to be a state bill. It is a state bill that they're discussing now. It's going to be helping not just theater venues, but all small businesses. We're all suffering. For us, it's especially hard because they're just not letting us open. At all.
Right, you literally can't do business.
We can't, and it's not because we can't social distance. I have ground plans prepared by engineers that can have me seating 24 to 27 people in the venue. And if I were to film it and everybody that's sitting as an audience member is part of the cast audience, like a part of the crew, not really a paying audience, then it would be perfectly legal for me to have them there. But if it's an audience that I'm inviting to come in to see a show, then it's not legal.
That's across the board. All theaters are shut down and is there any idea? I mean, obviously, look, I'm in the theater. I canceled my tour. I canceled my tour. We canceled everything as all the venues canceled because of a moral obligation, not because we wanted to, because we felt like we're not going to be super spreader events. We're not going to. It's the moral thing to do. It wasn't, even if there was no dictum that said, well, you have to stop, we would have not gone on. But is there any sense of, since it is a legal distinction right now or law, right? Is there any help coming from the city of New York, state of New York, that's saying or is it just like, okay, you guys, you're in trouble, you sink or swim?
There's a lot of sink and swim. Some people were lucky if their paperwork was in order. We were very lucky. Our EIDL loan was approved, so we're able to borrow money to continue running at excellent rates. I wish these were available during normal times, but we're able to run currently on borrowed money, which is going to be very difficult. Do
you have to pay that money back? Because International Law Company, my company, said if we're paying it on rent or we're paying it on staff, some of that money does not have to be paid back.
So there's PPP.
That's the CARES Act, yeah.
Yeah. PPP. So that money, hopefully, we won't have to pay back. Right. Beyond that, and that's
most of that money's running out now, isn't it?
That money's gone. That money's already gone. It was 7 months. It was designed for 2.5 months, and it's already gone. It was literally designed for 10 weeks, and that's it. Right. And hopefully there'll be a second round coming up. On the federal level, there's the Save Our Stages Act that has support in the House, has almost enough support in the Senate. but nobody's talking about passing anything at all. So it's not doing anything. It was folded in. Everything that is in the Save Our Stages Act was folded in into the Heroes Act, Heroes 2.0, which is also something that they're not voting on. But it's great that they're.
Tell us about what the Heroes
about
Act
it.
did.
Yeah.
First, let me just say, you're tuned in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal, and we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. I'm with Erez Ziv. We're talking about bailing out our culture, which we need to do. Not bailing it out, saving it. Talk about Save Our Stages, talk about the Heroes Act. What were those things? The Heroes Act was passed by the House, and then what happened? And what is the Heroes Act, for people who don't know?
I'm not an expert on the Heroes Act, but there's a lot of stuff in there that helps, that will help individuals, that will help businesses, that will help people. The Heroes 2.0 is what we're talking about now, and that's more targeted on small businesses and small venues. And the first round was wonderful for the banks, and it was wonderful for large corporations. Everybody who had a lot of money to begin with got more, and
Wow.
it didn't. And here in New York, the Bronx, 2% of the PPP money that was doled out in New York City was in the Bronx. 2%. This is insane. The people who needed the most got the least. And that's just because they gave it directly to the banks, and the banks lent it to people they normally lend money to.
Right.
And maybe the people will have to pay it back, and maybe they won't, but the bank only made the decision based on they're going to have to pay it back. We're going to give it to people who can do that. And everybody.
Wow. So what's going on for New York theater artists right now? What's going on to sustain people's creativity, to sustain their lives? I mean, there's tens of thousands of New York City actors and artists and musicians, and more than that probably.
We're helping each other. I mean, that's all that's going on. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. The state it doesn't have money and doesn't want to spend it on us. The city doesn't have money and doesn't want to spend it on us. And we're saving each other. Right now we have Patreon. We're relying on Patreon, and that's all the people that populate that are our customers and our artists. Right. Can afford it.
What's the Patreon?
Patreon is just a donation platform.
No, I know what Patreon is. What is your Patreon, and what is at the Patreon? What kind of content? And tell us the name of it.
Frigid New York. Patreon/Frigid New York. We do, like everybody that's in our Patreon, we meet every once in a while to do happy hour, which is a lot of fun. I think we're going to meet next week to make some phone calls to get people to vote. As long as we don't tell them who to vote for, I think it's legal. Otherwise, it's a nonprofit. We can't tell them who to vote for. And that's who's supporting us. There was a local organization, Indie Theater Fund, and another organization, Indie Space. They're now combining together, and they were able to put together a good fund that helped a good number of small venues. I think about a dozen small venues that were all left out of the. A lot of big foundations came together to hand money out to starving arts organizations in the city, and they give money to all the organizations that already get all the money. Like everybody.
Talk about how crucial it is that there are small theaters in New York City. And because if this goes on for a year, and it could, will it fundamentally remap everything in the city, right? Because you're talking about not just small theaters, but all small businesses, right? Talk about the character of the city and how that's on the line right now.
It will make a lot. First of all, this will be going on for a year by the time it's over. I don't think there's any way around that. At this point, this will be going on for a year. And it will be a radical shift. The small businesses here in New York are the flavor of New York. Everything that New Yorkers have been complaining about for the last 20 years has been, the big businesses taking over small businesses. And this is a moment where that is accelerated so quickly. If you don't have a landlord that understands, that is like cool, you're not going to survive. This is in the landlord's hands at this moment, because they're the ones that our biggest bills are paid to,
Right, of course.
and we don't.
New York City rent is the thing. It's the thing. Like, there is nothing but rent. Theater is about real estate. Music is about real estate. Real estate's about real estate. Living in New York is about real estate. The price of living in New York City is all about how much rent you pay, right? And New Yorkers are right to complain about the fact that we used to have a city that was populated by small businesses and small people and small, beautiful, diverse restaurants and cafes and delis and all the things, pizza places. And now it's like you have Starbucks out on every corner, and you have all these chain stores overpopulating New York City. What I'm worried about is that that's all that will be left, right?
Those chain stores.
But I think that there's an argument to be made for the fact that Amazon is now bankrupting all of these stores all across New York City. You see all these empty storefronts, so many empty storefronts in every city right now. Those should be given to cultural organizations, right? At free, in some way that we can say our culture is important. Our culture is our breath, is our life, is our reason to live in the city. Are you seeing people leave New York City because of the lack of culture and go elsewhere?
I'm seeing artists leaving because they have no way of paying their bills, so they're going home. They're going to wherever they don't have rent to pay, and some of them will come back, and some of them won't, and younger artists will come eventually and replace them. But we're losing. It's a brain drain of
Right.
like wonderful, qualified, trained, amazing people that we've had relationships with for years, and
Right.
they're going to go away.
So what do you need in a nutshell right now? I mean, I know there's the Save Our Stages and Cancel Rent. There's a Cancel Rent bill from Mike Ginaris and Julia Salazar. Mike Ginaris has been on this program. But in the few minutes that we have left, what is most desperately needed now, and how, in terms of the government, but also in terms of the community?
It's a complicated question, because there's things we need as a theater. We need rules. Just tell us what the rules are. We've been floundering for 7 months trying to figure out what the rules are going to be, what physical changes we need to make to our spaces to be able to reopen, and nobody's giving us any rules. Nobody's telling us what they are. I had a meeting with the mayor's office to try to figure out what the rules are, and they were like, so, tell us what you're planning to do, and write it out for us, and if it works, then we'll approve that. That's a lot of weight to put on independent venues that can't afford to hire experts. Somebody needs to come up with a set of rules to let us.
Right. That's amazing that there isn't even that.
There is nothing. There is absolutely.
It's such uncharted territory.
I'm allowed to have 27 people in my big theater right now.
How big is the full capacity of the big theater?
99.
Okay, so
And
25%.
Yeah, 25%. If we're shooting we just shot a commercial there the other day. There were 24 people in the space. It was perfectly legal. But if I turn that into a show, perfectly legal and safe. We've installed air exhaust. We've got air coming out. We're replacing all the air in the space every 5 minutes.
Wow.
So it's a safe environment. And if I want to have people in there filming, no problem. But if I want to have people sitting there with masks on, watching a show behind a wall of plexiglass, that's illegal.
But isn't it the case that if actors are projecting, they are actually breathing in this incredible, that's some of the big super spreader events have been singing, people speaking in loud voices. So I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things that's scary, right?
Yeah. So we have one of the exhaust ducts is above the stage. So it's pulling all the air from the stage out right away.
Do you think this is going to change the way people perform? In 1 minute left that we have, are people going to do more film, more video, more soft-spoken? Richard Foreman used to have these little microphones here, so you didn't have to speak very loud.
Well, we can we have plexiglass on its way that will shield the audience from the performers. We can put the audience 20 feet away from the performers because we have a much lower capacity. So we have room to move people around to make it safer. I think it'll make changes. It's already made changes. People have created Zoom shows already and playing with that. and I like playing with that. It's going to be fun adding all this digital stuff to what we do next. But ultimately, independent theater is a very affordable form of art to create.
Right.
And and as long as people can do it, they'll do it.
Right.
Making an indie show is a lot less.
Has there been an option to go outside, like restaurants have gone outside?
They're not even letting us do shows outside. Like,
well, see, that's crazy to me.
2 weeks
if they're
ago,
putting restaurants on the street, well, then put the theaters on the street too.
There is, they're trying to prevent gatherings, and I understand, but they're not even letting us practice at doing this well. We need, like, they can't one day say, okay, now you can let people in at 50% capacity. We're not going to know how to deal with that. We have to start at 10%, 20%. Like we have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Well, this is a continuing story. We're out of time for the segment, but thank you so much, Erez, for providing some insight here. We absolutely have to save our culture. You're tuned in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal. We'll be right back. All you folks out there in TV land, it is that time of the week. Now, earlier, I think it was yesterday actually, I got a tweet of a picture of me. Someone had written on Twitter, that feeling when you've added too much Zatarain's Creole seasoning to your margarita. And they had screenshotted me like kind of drinking it like this. And I thought it was hilarious. And they said, I said, no, it was just enough. It was what you need when you're in the woods of Pennsylvania trying to pretend that you're in Louisiana. And she was like, well, I don't know about that. I live in Western PA. But it was a nice thing to get. So if you're out there watching, please send us your screenshots. Put them on Twitter, send us on Facebook, whatever you want to do, of you making these drinks at home. And she said, I love your Friday show. I'm so excited to watch it every Friday. So, hey, for you out there in Western PA, saying oh, wow, no, I can't find the tweet. So I'm sorry, I can't address this to you by name. But I will say thank you for watching. And this new cocktail is for you, Christoph. We can dedicate this to the wonderful viewer in Western PA in the forest who doesn't like too much Creole seasoning.
I don't know. I've never had that problem, but
well, at least Creole seasoning in the margarita. I can get that. That was a little bit of branching off for me.
Oh, totally. But it's right up my alley. It sounds good to me.
It was good.
Yes,
I could have used a little more, I like a little spice and for this salty dog. All right.
Yeah, it makes a little more interesting than just salt. All right, so we're gonna do a very different kind of drink. We're gonna do an old, slow sipping kind of cold night cocktail.
Ooh.
We're gonna do the Bobby Burns.
Bobby Burns.
Yeah, I actually don't know the reason why it's called that, and I guess I need to look into the history of that. These are just drinks that I happen to know, and I was introduced. And when I was introduced to this cocktail, I honestly hated Scotch, but now this drink has grown on me, and I love Scotch.
A bartender who hates Scotch. I did not know that about you. Oh.
I didn't like whiskey. I didn't like a lot, so it was a growing process.
Your tastes have matured.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like my mom used to say to me. My mom is a great gourmet cook. Her 79th birthday was just last week. And she would, we used to hate a lot of things that she would make. She would make curry. She would make all these incredible Italian chicken cacciatore. And then, mussels. As kids, we were like, blah. But now that's the greatest stuff, and it really is your taste buds do change and they do mature. And so this whole undertaking of making drinks with you, I have to say, has made my drinking more sophisticated, more there's more of a bouquet, there's more and quite just a bit more in general.
I appreciate
just drinking more because now I know so much more about it. Oh Jesus.
Well, once you learn, you can't go back, and that's the dangerous part. But I mean, it is like cooking. Once you know some of the fundamentals, you can always knock it out. You can start building your home bar. And I used to also not know how to cook, and I'm so thankful that I learned how to cook. And I'm really thankful I learned how to make drinks because I have, as you see, I have a full bar and I can enjoy whatever I want whenever I want.
I do think, though, with drinks, there is a point where you completely forget all of it because you've just you drank way too much. I mean, you really only make. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No worries. All right, let's get started. We're just gonna do.
What I'm saying is drink responsibly and yet artfully. All right.
Yes.
Scotch.
Drink responsibly for sure. I mean, I honestly will have like one or two. Since COVID, I've lost my tolerance, so I barely can do like 2 drinks now. So it's been pretty weird. There we go.
All right, let's know. Scotch. What are we doing?
Yeah. We're doing 1 3/4 ounces of Scotch.
1 3/4 ounces of Scotch. I've got Dewar's here. My Aunt Vinny's favorite. My Tanta Vinny, my Italian grandmother, practically, although she was my great aunt because my grandmother was a vicious, horrible person. All right, this one's for you, Vinny.
All right, and so this drink is normally just going to be Scotch, sweet vermouth, and Benedictine. What we're going to do is we're going to do 1/2 ounce of sweet vermouth.
1/2 ounce of sweet vermouth. Here I have the Punta Mace.
All right, and then I'm going to add something that's not normally in the drink, but this is actually how I was trained to make this drink, and I later found out that it was a creative flourish on the part of my boss, but I've come to really appreciate it, and that's going to be 1/4 ounce of Averna.
1/4 ounce of Averna. Averna, one of my new favorites, because it's in so many of the drinks that you make, Christoph.
Yeah. And the Averna just gives it body. It gives it this rich caramel, bitter, body that you don't generally just get from sweet vermouth.
Now let's talk about these Averna for a second. That's a family of the Amaros. Isn't that right?
Yes. So
talk about it. What is an Amaro?
So an Amaro is a bitter liqueur, but that really means is that it is a combination of usually barks and herbs with alcohol and then sugar. So it has a sweetness, but it has this bitter herbal note. And every Amaro is different. There's dozens of Amaros. I've been kind of actually trying to learn a little bit more myself. Averna, the best way to describe it is kind of like a burnt caramel flavor. Mm-hmm. So if you ever get that burnt like creme brulee, there's that bitterness.
Beautiful.
There's those rich burnt sugar caramel notes. So Averna has a lot of that. And we've done.
It is sort of like creme brulee in a bottle.
Yeah, I mean, really, I never thought about it that way before. And then when somebody was explaining like burnt caramel and I tasted, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. It's rich, it's heavy, but it's designed as usually a digestive. So that's where these come from. They were not really ever part of cocktails. It's a line of herbal digestives. But now in a lot of our cocktails, we use them and they're delicious.
I love how Italians invented these digestives because they eat such heavy food, like the pasta, the lasagna, and you eat so much of it that you're like, oh my God, I can't move. Mama, what did you do to me? I can't move. And you're like, so they're just like, shut up. We made all of these drinks so you can move again. And you'll be a little drunk too. It's the best, So there's this weird thing, like instead of changing the cuisine, which makes you feel like a beached whale, which I love, my own indigenous, what you would call it. I mean, my cuisine, my people, and yet they add insult to injury by creating extraordinary things to drink after you already feel, which make you feel not really that much better, but at least numb to the effects. It's good.
Hey, I will swear by that. It helps if you have eaten too much. A little finisher of Amaro is a great solution.
Yep.
But
and what's the Fernet? Is that an Amaro?
It's a bitter liqueur. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know if it's technically called an Amaro, but it fits the same category. Although Fernet has distinctively almost no sugar in it, so it's going to be very dry bitter.
Yeah.
But
those are good ones though.
It's an entire library. I have at least 3 or 4 here, but there's an entire library of Amaros that you need to. There's never an end to the discovery of new Amaros and new flavors, and it's really a fun thing to get into.
I think there should be a library of Amaro in every town.
Where
you could go in and check out different Amaros.
Yeah, there's a bar in New York, I think. I don't know what it's called, but I've heard they have an Amaro menu.
No, I don't mean a bar. I mean like a library where you can go with your library card, sanctioned by the town or the state or the county. The Wayne County Amaro Library in downtown.
Well, there should definitely be one in
Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's what I believe in. I'm going to say that. That's one of the political positions that's coming out of this program, out of this segment anyway. All right, we must continue. Well, all
Yeah,
these people out there are waiting to drink this drink, and we're rambling on.
Just a little. So then you're going to finish with Benedictine. That's an herbal liqueur. And see, this is where a Benedictine is an herbal liqueur. A Verna is an herbal liqueur. But Benedictine is not an Amaro, whereas a Verna is an Amaro.
How much Benedictine?
You can do a 1/4 ounce.
Tiny smidge. It's hard to even pour a 1/4 ounce. Okay, there it is.
Yeah, that's why I put it in a little cheater glass.
That's a skill. All right.
Now you just add ice, and then you're going to stir.
Add the ice. Oh, I don't have. I'm preparing to leave Pennsylvania, so I'm just going to swish it around. I don't have.
There you go.
Preparing to come back down.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. It's glorious weather.
Can't wait. I can't wait. We were supposed to leave.
The city is coming back to life, hopefully responsibly, but we'll see about that.
All right, let's strain that bad boy into a. Ooh, it's got a beautiful amber color to it.
Yes.
And this is called a Bobby Burns, but we don't know why, and we don't know who Bobby Burns was.
Bobby Burns. I'll next episode. I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to give an update about where did the Bobby Burns come from. But a lot of cocktail history is really convoluted and hard to track down. Because
they were drunk when they wrote it down.
Yeah. And nobody was also really writing it down except a few weird dudes who like to mix a bunch of stuff together.
We should start a new conquest, drunk cocktail history, not just drunk.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's
okay. I think this is a segment that's coming on our next iteration of Staying Home Drunk Cocktail History. That'll be for the late night Patreon, which I don't have. All right, ready?
All right,
cheers. Thank you, Christoph.
Oh man.
Well, that's really good. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I know you're using Puntames as well. The cool thing about Puntames is actually it is a blend of sweet vermouth and Amaro, so that's why it works really well as robust. Yeah, it has a little bit of that robust richness that you get from Amaros, but it's blended with the vermouth.
In the words of Don Knotts, smooth.
Cheers to that.
All right, Christoph, thank you so much. Wow, this is going to make a difference tonight. So thank you so much for tuning. Start over. Thank you so much for tuning in to Staying Home, your revolutionary guide to the Green New Deal and your revolutionary guide to the brown old cocktail. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Christoph.
No problem. Cheers, man.
Cheers. Stay safe. Bye.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was too strong coffee? Yes, new twostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at twostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Each month we get closer to our fundraising goals at tyt.com/go. We're here to press on and carry on the work that we've been doing that's so important. We appreciate it so much when you help us to fight against social injustice, fight against corruption, to hold the government and the media accountable, and certainly corporations as well. We do this together. So let's build this progressive community together. Thank you for making us stronger and making the whole movement stronger. To make our voices heard, go to tyt.com/go.
Our generation actually has a voice to say who we want.
For the first time ever, we are the biggest voting bloc in America.
One of the people we've been talking about for months and months will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're ever going to vote.
Do you have any idea how much of a difference 4 years makes?
The action that we take right now doesn't just affect us right now.
Discussion is important. But words aren't the only thing. You have to take action.
So that we can actually affect real change instead of just talking about it.
Get out there and
take a part in making a difference.
Every voice really does matter, whether young or old, especially young people. Get out there and vote, damn it.
Now, more than ever, we can make a change.
I'm gonna vote because I want this country to be different.
I don't want the older generation to decide our future.
I want to make this world a better place for my son.
You can make change.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL. Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote Earl.
Vote in real life.
Vote IRL.
Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at shoptyt.com. Vote and let's make change happen now. All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody. Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right. They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
Turn your passions into potential investment opportunities. Whether it's cannabis, fashion, travel, video games, or anything in between, you tell us what you're interested in, and we'll help you uncover the investment potential. Introducing Doe, our newest partner. With Doe, you can be an owner, not just a consumer, with no fees to trade individual stocks. Doe provides your daily one-stop investment shop with lists of companies that relate to your personal interests, relevant news on your favorite stocks, and videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes. Go to doe.com/TYT and download today. Hey, that's Anna.
Jumping music, slick DJs, fog machines, and laser rays. Look out weekends, cause here I come. Because weekends were made for fun. Look out weekend, cause here I come. Because weekends were made for fun, fun, fun. I work hard every day. It's all work and no play. With the boss on my back, he don't give me any slack. I sit down, I daydream of how my weekend's gonna be.
Girl, I wish you would. Oh, what's up? Hey there. You're watching TYT. I'm Anna Kasparian. Joining me is Nando Vila, not only co-hosting today on TYT, but also the co-host of Weekends on Jacobin, which of course takes place on the weekend every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Please check that out. You can subscribe by going to youtube.com/JacobinMag. Nando, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Fresh off another fun debate. Just I'm invigorated by just high-minded democratic debate. It's just I love it. I feel good.
It was so high-minded, so high-minded. Yeah. We talked about it a little bit before the show started. We both agreed that Biden did pretty well last night, relatively speaking, and it was not a great night for Trump. So you should watch our debate coverage if you missed it last night. I'm not talking to you, Nando. I'm talking to the rest of the audience. But it was an interesting night. I'm not gonna lie. I was drinking whiskey while watching. It makes everything easier, right? Like yes. I know my limit, so it's not like I'm wasted or anything like that. But it definitely makes the whole process more enjoyable. So that's what happened last night. Real quick note about our sponsor Aspiration, and then we'll move on to some interesting news regarding Bernie Sanders. He's at the top of our rundown today. So I love it. It's a good story, but there might be a little bit of debate. Who knows? But it's about a position in Biden's cabinet. Does it make sense for Bernie to serve in this position? We'll have that discussion. But first, Aspiration. After the elections, we will randomly select 4 winners to join Cenk Uygur in a private panel discussion about the elections. All you have to do to qualify in this contest is be an active Aspiration card member. So if you have already signed up for an Aspiration account, you're good to go. You don't have to do anything. You might be one of the 4 names randomly chosen. However, if you haven't opened up an account and you want more information about this competition, just go to aspiration.com/TYT, where you will get all of the info you need. Now, with that said, we have lots of news to get to, and I want to start off with that Bernie story that I teased. So let's discuss. Senator Bernie Sanders is hoping to serve in Biden's cabinet as labor secretary, and that's according to reporting from Politico. Now, Bernie Sanders has not confirmed or denied this report, which means it's probably true. But here's what we know so far based on a source who's close to Senator Sanders. I can confirm he's trying to figure out how to land that role or something like it. He personally does have interest in it. Again, Sanders declined to confirm or deny that he's putting his name forward for this position. Now, Sanders has been making his push for the top job at the Labor Department, in part by reaching out to allies on the transition team. One person familiar with the process said, when asked about Sanders's potential role, a spokesperson for Biden's transition team repeated the transition stock line that they are not making any personnel decisions pre-election. But as we know, in a story that we shared with you earlier this week, Biden is open to having Republicans serve in his cabinet. John Kasich is currently being vetted as a potential pick. We don't know exactly which role he would be chosen for. There are other Republicans that were named. We don't know if they're going to be chosen for Biden's cabinet for sure, but we do know that they're at least being vetted and considered. So I think it only makes sense that we have some progressive representation in Biden's cabinet as well. One person close to Sanders agreed that Sanders sees an opportunity to achieve long-held policy goals for the working class under Biden, adding he really does believe Biden wants to be a Roosevelt-like president. And this is where I want to bring you in, Nando. What do you think about that statement? Because I mean, we had a very frank discussion about strategy on last week's episode of Weekends for Jacobin. We were talking about the debate between Brianna Joy Gray and Noam Chomsky about whether or not it makes sense to vote for Biden. We both kind of fell in the position of you should vote for Biden. Why make things harder than it needs to be when you want to push for change in the country? But we also accepted that the likelihood of Biden moving to the left is unlikely. It's going to be incredibly difficult. And when you consider his message of unity, which is, trying to draw bipartisan support, which includes Republicans, I think it's a little naive to think he's going to move to positions that we really want him to move to. But do you think with Bernie in his cabinet serving as labor secretary, he would be able to have the influence necessary to move Biden to the left on incredibly important labor issues?
So Biden is not a committed ideologue, if that makes sense. Biden is very much a bellwether of kind of where the mainstream political environment is at any time. Like I'm reading a book now about the 1970s and Biden is a major character throughout it. And he was basically just kind of swept up in the currents of the time, which was basically the sort of hard right shift. And Biden went along right with it. But then, as soon as Obama got in, he was just he had kind of made his peace with like a sort of version of Obamaism, this kind of enlightened neoliberalism. He's not a committed ideologue, and it is true that the ideological basis of the Democratic Party base has shifted dramatically to the left in recent years. It is also true that there is a more pernicious influence of the donor class on the Democratic Party. It is a conflict, and Biden is just kind of in the middle of it. So I think that it's important. It's one of the reasons why I think it is important for Bernie to try to get in there in some way. If he is in there, you might see a sort of very schizophrenic Biden administration. Like I don't think that on issues on like foreign policy, for example, like he won't do anything that's not just kind of your standard American empire building. But on issues around the economy, there might be some movement. It's just the scale of the economic crisis is so vast and deep that even some like upper middle class people and some upper class people are thinking like something pretty drastic has to happen, and for Bernie to get in there as labor secretary, I mean, the Department of Labor is one of these federal bureaucracies and departments that probably has more power lying around than people realize. You never hear about it because lately it's just filled with these kind of hacks that that don't really do anything. But Bernie would be the most famous labor secretary ever. I mean, there would be people watching like the day-to-day goings on at the Department of Labor, and Bernie is able to rally popular support for things himself. So you can imagine that department sort of having a lot of independent power. I mean, Bernie would have to be very careful about how he managed it, because if you went like, if he pissed off Biden too much, he'd probably get fired. Although it would be hard for Biden to fire someone like Bernie just because he is so popular, and there would be like demonstrations and things like that if that were to happen. I mean, people don't realize this. Like FDR's labor secretary was a woman named Frances Perkins. She was there basically the entire time FDR was in power. She was there from 1933 to 1945 as the Secretary of Labor, and she was absolutely key in sort of implementing the day-to-day of the New Deal. Running the Civilian Conservation Corps, implementing Social Security, unemployment insurance, all these things. Like if there would have been some like pro-business hack the way there is now and the way there has been for a long time at the Department of Labor, the New Deal would have just been much harder. Like it's not just legislation that passes and then stuff happens. Like there has to be sort of civil servants in positions of power to actually implement these things. So Bernie in there, I find it just to be like a very interesting prospect to see what he would do as Secretary of Labor.
So there are some potential downsides to this happening, and I want to get to that in just a second. But first, I want to read a member comment from Cousin Vinny, and thank you for writing in, Cousin Vinny. He writes in and says, "I think he, meaning Biden, does want to be like FDR. Whether he's able to give his policy stances is debatable, but I do believe he wants his legacy to be getting America back on track." There was a little bit of a hint to kind of buttress your point, because recently Biden did roll out his policy in regard to coronavirus and what he would do to tackle this very serious public health issue while also creating jobs, which of course are necessary as more and more Americans are getting laid off in the economic fallout due to the pandemic. And what he did was invoke FDR strategies from the New Deal in this plan. Now, of course, candidates put out all sorts of proposals as they're running for any position in government, and then whether or not they actually pursue it, that's like the big question after they get elected. And so I like the messaging. I don't know how serious he is about it, but I just thought it was interesting how he really wanted to emphasize this FDR-like approach toward this public health issue that we're dealing with right now. Nando, what were your thoughts on that? Like, were you buying it at all, or do you think it's just some posturing to appease progressive voters?
It's hard to know. I mean, we don't have any method of disciplining our politicians. We don't have any method of like kind of holding them to account. I mean, once they get in, they're in for 4 years, and so there's a huge incentive to basically lie to the voters. Is essentially the long and the short of it. But I think that I get the sense that the scale of the economic crisis is so big that there will be appetite to do something big. The question is what that is, and that's why I like the idea of Bernie getting in there, because you trust him. You trust him implicitly. You don't think that he's going to sell out. You don't think that he's going to do something horrible the way other people have. So, and Biden is, like I said, he's not a committed ideologue. Like he's not a I don't know, like an Amy Klobuchar to me strikes me as like a committed ideologue, and Biden is just isn't that guy. He's more of a weather vane. He's more of a politician. So it really will depend on what pressure is applied to him.
Do you remember the name of the author that Michael Brooks interviewed? The author had written a book about Joe Biden and his entire career, and I don't want to mess up his name.
Marchetich.
Yes, that's who it is. I thought that was such an enlightening, from Jacobin. It's such an enlightening interview, and I've been meaning to read his book because it just really details the influences in Biden's political career, and what you just described is absolutely correct based on this author and this writer, and he had really carefully studied Biden's political career from beginning to where he is today. And I just thought it is interesting how malleable Biden can be. And I think that could be a good sign. It really can be a good sign. The question is, who's going to have more influence? Is it going to be the donor class and these never Trump Republicans, or can progressives organize effectively enough to push him in the other direction? So we'll see. And so now let's talk a little bit about what the potential downsides could be if Bernie Sanders decides to serve in Biden's cabinet, if he gets chosen to serve as labor secretary. So as we know, he's a senator out of Vermont. It's important to have Democratic senators right now, but Vermont Governor Phil Scott is a Republican. He'd be able to appoint a temporary successor to his Senate seat. Unlike governors in other states who get to appoint successors to carry out the rest of the term, Scott would be required under Vermont law to hold a special election within 6 months of the seat becoming vacant. But even allowing Scott the opportunity to fill Sanders' seat with a GOP lawmaker in the short term could potentially affect control of the Senate, depending on the results of November's election. So do you think that that's worth the risk, Nando?
Well, I don't know the internal workings of Vermont politics. I'm assuming Bernie does very well. And I'm assuming if Bernie is lobbying for this position, I think again, like I said, I trust Bernie. Maybe that's naive of me, but I trust Bernie's political instincts. I think he's a very good politician. And if he feels that there's an election, I believe, for Vermont governor right now, so it could be that a Democrat wins. Maybe Bernie knows something we don't there, but also I think Bernie's probably confident in his ability to sort of rally the voters of Vermont to basically vote for his successor in 6 months' time. Like, it is true that it would be a shame to have one less Democrat in the early phases of the Biden presidency, in the first few months or whatever. But I'm guessing. Like I said, I trust Bernie. So in terms of Vermont politics, which I'm not an expert in, I'm sure he knows it better than I do. And if he is indeed lobbying for this position, I'm sure he's taken that into account. He's been in the Senate for a long time. He understands how it works. He understands how the institution works. I'm sure he's taken that factor into account. It's not like it's like, oh wait, I forgot. There's not going to be a Democratic senator. I'm sure he's taken that. He's weighed that downside.
One other thing though that I think is worth mentioning. So if he remains in the Senate, and I think we should see this as a good thing, because regardless of where Bernie ends up, he's going to have increased power, which I personally want, increased influence. And so if he remains in the Senate, he's poised to become the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. It's a pretty big deal. And the Senate Subcommittee on Health. And that's if Democrats take over the Senate following November's election. So I want to learn more, and I want specific details on what he can do as labor secretary. Based on what I know now, I think I personally prefer him in the Senate, especially when he has the opportunity to become the chairman of these incredibly important committees. But we should explore it more. We're going to interview Richard Wolff tomorrow on our show Weekends for Jacobin, and I want to ask him about this because I'm really curious to see what he has to say about it.
Nathan Robinson did a tweet storm where he talked about like the importance of having Bernie in the Senate because it allows him to remain independent and be like an independent critic of Biden, and that if he's in the administration, he wouldn't be able to like come out and say like, whatever Biden just did in Venezuela or whatever is like some awful thing. Like he would have to be much more careful about the way he handles that, and that's 100% true. I understand that. I think that the contra that I would say to that is that there has been a rise of independent left media. So the singular voice of Bernie is not as crucial as it may have been 5 years ago. And then the other thing is that for there to be any meaningful left power in this country in any conceivable way, even modest reforms, we need a revitalized labor movement. Like it's such a precondition for any social change in America and anywhere really. I mean, look at the Bolivian election. The New Deal happened because there was a large and organized working class and labor movement. And it's not surprised that the Department of Labor, which was started under Woodrow Wilson about 20 years before the New Deal, really helped the labor movement kind of establish itself and really gain a solid foothold in American life. The first labor secretaries were all union leaders. They all came out, like the first labor secretary ever was like a miner, who came up through the union movement. And we haven't had someone like that in the Department of Labor for a long time. And so Bernie in there, you could imagine him really, really pushing some very large unionization movement, whether it be like at somewhere like Amazon. Like, can you imagine what it'd be if Amazon got unionized? I mean, it would be a total game changer. Or, Walmart is the largest employer in America, like famously anti-union. Like if you have someone like Bernie at the Department of Labor, like actively working with workers at those companies to unionize, like it could be a huge source of power down the road. Like yes, Bernie coming out and talking about the awful thing Biden just did, that's important as well, but really you need a sort of solid base of power, and that does not happen without a large and organized working class. And someone in there like Bernie at the Department of Labor could be the seeds of a revitalized labor movement.
All right, well, tell us what you guys think in our members section, in the comment section. Very curious to hear what you guys have to say about this story. I can already see a little bit of disagreement among our members. So we'll read some of those comments when we come back from the break. And when we come back from the break, we'll discuss AOC snapping right back at Donald Trump and his statements about her during last night's debate. Come right back.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new, toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Each month we get closer to our fundraising goals at tyt.com/go. We're here to press on and carry on the work that we've been doing that's so important. We appreciate it so much when you help us to fight against social injustice, fight against corruption, to hold the government and the media accountable, and certainly corporations as well. We do this together. So let's build this progressive community together. Thank you for making us stronger and making the whole movement stronger. To make our voices heard, go to tyt.com/go.
Our generation actually has a voice to say who we want.
For the first time ever, we are the biggest voting bloc in America.
One of the people we've been talking about for months and months will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're ever going to vote.
Do you have any idea how much of a difference 4 years makes?
The action that we take right now doesn't just affect us right now.
Discussion is important, but words aren't the only thing. You have to take action.
So that we can actually affect real change instead of just talking about it.
Get out there and
take a part in making a difference.
Every voice really does matter, whether young or old, especially young people. Get out there and vote, damn it.
Now, more than ever, we can make a change.
I'm gonna vote because I want this country to be different.
I don't want the older generation to decide our future.
I want to make this world a better place for my son.
You can make change.
Vote IRL. Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote Earl.
Vote in real life.
Vote IRL.
Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at shoptyt.com. Vote and let's make change happen now. All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this battle. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody. Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
Turn your passions into potential investment opportunities. Whether it's cannabis, fashion, travel, video games, or anything in between, you tell us what you're interested in and we'll help you uncover the investment potential. Introducing Doe, our newest partner. With Doe, you can be an owner, not just a consumer, with no fees to trade individual stocks. Doe provides your daily one-stop investment shop with lists of companies that relate to your personal interests, relevant news on your favorite stocks, and videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes. Go to doe.com/TYT and download today.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to TYT. Anna and Nando with you. Just a few programming notes and we'll move on to the rest of the news. So tomorrow, TYT is hosting a watch party on our Twitch channel for the documentary Gasland with commentary with the writer and director, Josh Fox. So you guys should totally check that out. Gasland received an Academy Award nomination for Best Documentary Feature, and Josh Fox picked up an Emmy Award for Outstanding Directing for Nonfiction Programming. So you can watch on Friday, October 23rd. I think that's actually today, not tomorrow, my bad. Friday, October 23rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And the Twitch channel is twitch.tv/TYT. Also, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, you can tune in to watch Bernie Sanders' Unity Rally. So it is the Progressive Unity Town Hall featuring Senator Bernie Sanders, and it's hosted by Progressives for Biden-Harris. You can watch on facebook.com/TYT. All right, lots of fun stuff. And a few member comments, just because I promised. And there's a diversity of opinion when it comes to Bernie Sanders serving as labor secretary in a Biden presidency. So CJ says, Bernie for labor secretary would be awesome. Remember how in the Obama administration, Rahm Emanuel told MoveOn/progressives to F off. Putting Bernie on the cabinet is a huge step forward. Leroy, not Jenkins, says no matter who wins, we need to figure out a way to make them react to progressives. It feels like we're always playing defense. That is okay. I was trying to make that statement to Nando right before we had to come back. The most frustrating part of Democratic campaigning is how they always allow themselves to play defense rather than playing offense. Like, you guys should be the ones throwing out the attacks, especially when you're dealing with this target-rich environment, with all these Republican goons. David Sursa says, I think Bernie should not give up his seat in the Senate. If Biden is the president of the United States, then Bernie is better to be heard on the Ways and Means Committee or the equivalent in the Senate. I hear you. There are upsides and downsides to both options. And super chat from Lars Nielsen. If my interpretation of Nando's bookshelf is correct, that means he's a Russian puppet. Russiagate was not a hoax. I don't know what that means.
Well, I have Boris Yeltsin.
I see.
And
do you have the babushkas?
Gorbachev. I have all the heads of state over here, my supreme leaders.
So Nando shot a few episodes of Weekends with an empty bookshelves behind him because he was staying in someone else's home. And now I feel like you're traumatized. Now you always have a full bookshelf right behind you when we're doing shows.
They book shamed me. They said I was not a smart person. I don't even read books. All I do is watch Netflix all day or something. And listen, I'm not the brightest bulb there is, but I read books every once in a while. Come on.
Get out of here.
Come on, man. Do Joe Biden.
Come on, man. I know. So good. Okay, we got to get to the rest of the news. Right. So let's talk about a moment from the debate last night that AOC did not like. Donald Trump decided to go after Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez during his final debate with Joe Biden. But as always, the popular Congresswoman snapped back and put him in his place. So here's Donald Trump talking about AOC in regard to the Green New Deal. This was his way of not only attacking her, but also attacking Joe Biden. Let's see how it went down.
AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. Look, their real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number like that. When he says buildings, they want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it can be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the vice president respond, and we're running out of time, and we have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the vice president. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queens.
$100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan been endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group.
So as you can imagine, AOC didn't like that comment. But you know these Democrats, they don't like broken windows. They don't even like any windows. They would eliminate all windows. That's what these Democrats would do. So ridiculous. Yes. So
do we know where that comes from? What fringe right-wing blog, came up with that? It's just, I don't know where that comes from.
It's like the weird, but this is what I'm talking about when I say play offense. They make up the most ridiculous accusations imaginable. So why don't Democrats play ball? All right, you're gonna accuse us of like dumb things, like trying to eliminate windows in buildings. I don't know, you don't even have to make things up. That's the problem. Like, again, Trump is a target-rich environment. One person who seems to understand that is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It'd be wonderful to see her debate some of these Republican goons soon. And she says it's actually AOC plus 115 because that's how many House and Senate members have co-sponsored the most ambitious climate legislation in American history. I'm so deeply proud of and grateful of each and every one of the House and Senate colleagues who stand for our future and champion the Green New Deal, the boldest climate plan in US history. And if you look at her first tweet, I mean, it got more than 350,000 likes. It was insane. And Jamal Bowman also chimed in on this and says, there's more than 3. As we know now. And then Cori Bush also took part in this conversation and said, AOC plus 3, hate to break it to you, but it's not about to be, but it's about to be a lot more than 3. Actually, I don't hate to break it to you. And she also says, no matter who occupies the White House, we need progressive champions in the people's house. Join us today. And so just to give you guys some actual statistics and some polling on the Green New Deal and where Americans stand on that type of robust environmental policy, a 2019 survey conducted on behalf of 350 Action and Data for Progress found that the Green New Deal, summarized as policies that would transition the United States economy from fossil fuels to clean energy sources and drive job-creating investments in infrastructure and communities, was supported by 59% of the nation's voters, while only 28% opposed it. More recent polling done last month by The Guardian and Vice revealed that a growing share of the United States favors stronger climate policies. 70% of voters back government action to address the climate crisis. 3/4 want the United States to generate all of its electricity from renewable sources by 2035, and almost 2/3 reported being more likely to pick a candidate who favors a complete shift from dirty to clean energy. So as much as conservatives want to pretend as though the Green New Deal is some crazy fringe policy suggestion, the truth is more and more Americans, probably because they're dealing with extreme weather conditions, do want something to change when it comes to our energy dependency on fossil fuels.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that clean environment, clean water, clean air is all very popular. Good jobs is very popular. Unionized jobs, very popular. All these things are very, very popular. And it kind of drives me crazy sometimes when people have like a hyper obsession with polling on any specific issue. Like, I mean, this comes up a lot when talking about fracking, right? Where like, a poll came out recently after the last debate in which like it showed how like a lot of Democrats don't support a ban on fracking or whatever, but that's only because they're Democrats and they filtered it through the partisan lens, and they understand that because like it's become an issue in the campaign that they have to go to their side and they're backing their leaders. But like at the end of the day, all of this stuff, all of like the sort of vague ideas around helping the environment while improving working conditions and housing conditions in this country, all of that is popular. Like, and Democratic leaders need to understand this. Like, when you do things that help people's lives, they become popular. So like, like if you're only just kind of like trying to read the tea leaves on any individual issue and see where the polling is exactly at, like the polling moves a lot wildly on these things, depending on how leadership reacts to them and how it gets filtered through the partisan lens. But at the end of the day, fundamentally, to understand that things like the Green New Deal, which would improve people's lives and make them have better jobs and would give people clean air, water, security, all these things that people, every single person always ever in the history of mankind in any society has always wanted, are popular. So yeah, I
mean, look, the question is, how do you get? I think Democratic lawmakers and Republican lawmakers know this is true. Republican lawmakers have always been super cozy with the fossil fuel industry. Of course, the fossil fuel industry also donates to a lesser extent to Democratic lawmakers. The question is, how do we get them to move away from that type of donor funding? Because they know that it's popular. That's the reason why Biden put out, he is supportive of the Green New Deal, but decided to put out his own policy because the Green New Deal became so toxic for the donor class, right? So let me rebrand it into something that might be a little more palatable to my donors. I think that's what Biden's doing. And of course, to be fair, his plan is not nearly as robust as the Green New Deal would be, but it's not terrible. I mean, he certainly would be far better for the environment than Donald Trump would be. Donald Trump has done everything in his power to roll back what little environmental protections were passed under the Obama administration. But there's so many popular policy proposals by progressives that get ignored by corporate Democrats all the time. And it's because they're literally paid not to support them. That's why money in politics is such a toxic component of our political system.
No, and the partisan nature of things. I mean, I think this is what whenever you saw like some poll, this was like a very kind of early 2000s things. You saw some poll, it's like, oh my God, 75% of Republican voters like think climate change is fake, and that misunderstands how these things flow. Like this, that's kind of letting Republican lawmakers off the hook, saying it like flows from the bottom up, as a sort of like, this is just a thing that Republican voters believe, therefore the Republican politicians sort of do that. No, and it's because people kind of take cues from their leadership. Like the people sort themselves out into like kind of teams and tribes, and then they take cues from their leadership, and they understand that in America, climate change became a partisan issue for whatever reason, for the reasons of the donors and the thing, and the fossil fuel industry buying off the thing, but the voters kind of sort themselves out into those things, and then it flows from the top down on those things. And broadly speaking, with something like climate change, if you're asking voters whether they would want to take a haircut essentially to, improve some vague idea called climate change, most people say no. But if the genius of the Green New Deal is tying climate change to an improvement in people's lives, which is something that everyone wants, whether you're Republican, black, green, brown, red, whatever. Like every single person wants. It's jobs. You tie it to jobs, better housing, security, all those things. Like when you push it, like the genius of the American kind of anti-climate movement has been to push any climate change thing onto regular people and the costs of it onto regular people. And then you see people revolt. It's why people like are so angry about the plastic straws, because it's like it feeling like, really like it's the people in power and rich people, they're the people that are causing climate change, but they're asking me to take a haircut while they're getting richer and richer and richer and richer and richer. That's not how that works.
Yeah, that's such a great point. All right, well, let's move on to what Mike Pompeo is up to. I know that he hasn't been making a lot of news, but he's just as awful as before. So the Trump administration is considering labeling groups like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Oxfam as anti-Semitic organizations. Why? Well, Mike Pompeo is looking to run for president in the future, and he thinks that this might actually help him with certain hardliners on Israel. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, as reported in Politico, is pushing for the declaration, according to a congressional aide with contacts inside the State Department. Pompeo is eyeing a future presidential run and has taken a number of steps to gain favor with pro-Israel and evangelical voters who make up a key part of Trump's electoral base. So a former State Department official with contacts on the inside confirmed the basics of the declaration and said it could be released shortly. The declaration is expected to take the form of a report from the office of Elon Carr, the US Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. It would declare that it is the United States policy not to support such groups, including financially, even though the government doesn't financially support these groups anyway, and urge other governments to cease their support. And look, the accusations against these organizations is that they're anti-Semitic because they have the audacity to call out the Israeli government, okay? It's very different from just calling out Israeli people. The Israeli government and its decision to continue building settlements in Palestinian territory. That is a criticism that many people have. Unfortunately, in some cases, if you voice that criticism, you get called anti-Semitic. What Mike Pompeo is doing here is purely political for personal gain, and it's absolutely disgusting because these organizations are not in any way anti-Semitic. In fact, they don't even they don't back the BDS movement, which is what they're being accused of here. The report would cite such groups' alleged or perceived support of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which has targeted Israel over its construction of settlements on land Palestinians claim for a future state. The groups named also do not all officially support the BDS movement or take a position on it, but they have all been critical to one degree or another of Israel's settlement policies and its treatment of the Palestinians, and pro-Israel organizations have claimed that the group's actions nonetheless constitute support for the movement and are thus anti-Semitic. Look, I'm not part of the BDS movement, right? But I believe in free speech, and so they're allowed to practice their political activity like that. We're supposed to have protections for that. And it's just ridiculous that, oh, well, I support the Israeli government no matter what. And so as a result, I'm gonna go after government or not government, non-government organizations, NGOs, for not taking a hardline anti-BDS movement approach. And look, to be fair, there are some State Department lawyers who are speaking out and they're saying, well, this does violate people's First Amendment rights. Like, this is ridiculous. So I don't know what's gonna end up happening with this, but it's just more of the same from the Trump administration.
Well, it's also hard to overstate just how thoroughly mainstream these organizations are. Like Human Rights Watch is not some, radical left kind of anti-system organization. Like Human Rights Watch has actually been criticized a lot from the left for being kind of like a State Department tool, like a sort of an instrument for soft power and empire. Like it's not some sort of, they're not like radical lefty underground types. They're incredibly mainstream, kind of thoroughly embedded within the sort of US foreign policy establishment. So like it just shows just how radicalized the discourse around Israel has become in this country in certain circles. I mean, the settlements are a flagrant violation of international law. It's like uncontroversial to say this in any other part of the world. I mean, it is just an obvious and flagrant violation of international law. But it's gotten to the point where any sort of muted, light criticism of the settlements, or even just silence on the support for the settlements, has become evidence of like crypto anti-Semitism or whatever. And it's crazy. It's crazy that we've gotten to this point. I mean, it's hard to overstate just how dramatically this debate has shifted to the right in the last 10 years or so. This was not the case at all. I mean, there used to be sort of a broad international consensus around, a two-state solution and a thing, and like even that now is out the window. And these mainstream like Amnesty International,
it's crazy.
Oxfam.
Yeah, in fact, Oxfam released a statement in response to this. Oxfam does not support BDS or call for the boycott of Israel or any other country. Oxfam and our Israeli and Palestinian partners have worked on the ground for decades to promote human rights and provide life-saving support for Israeli and Palestinian communities. We stand by our long history of work protecting the lives, human rights, and futures of all Israelis and Palestinians. So this move by Pompeo, once it gets declared, it hasn't officially happened yet, is nothing more than a political move, again, to enrich his own political career. He sees this as a way to appeal to certain groups of people who might help him on his path to victory as a Republican president, God forbid. But there's no actual substance to these accusations. And it's disgusting, because what have we heard from conservatives in America, especially people like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin? Oh, well, you know how all these lefties are. If they don't like you, they'll just label you a racist. If they don't like you, they'll just label you a sexist. If they don't like you, they'll label you all sorts of names, homophobic, transphobic. And it's not true. It's not true, as they say homophobic, transphobic, sexist, racist things over and over again. But in this case, they're accusing these organizations of being anti-Semitic with absolutely no evidence, no proof, no substance behind those accusations. So where are the free speech conservatives right now?
Are you saying, Anna, that those people are acting in bad faith? Oh my goodness, that is just shocking, shocking to me. But to be clear, like supporting BDS does not make you an anti-Semite. Even if you do, like these organizations don't even support it, don't even support that. But even if they did, it would not constitute anti-Semitism in any meaningful way. So it is.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. My decision to not be part of that is like, I have my criticism of it, but it's not because it's anti-Semitic. I just think that, first of all, boycott movements don't work. We had a long discussion about that on our show. But more importantly, the consequences, the unintended consequences, and innocent people who suffer from those kinds of movements if they're successful enough. I don't agree with that. But I don't think being part of that movement makes you anti-Semitic. I think that it's totally justified to criticize the Israeli government and their aggression against Palestinians. Some people might want to twist that as anti-Semitic, but I just don't think that there's any substance to that accusation. All right, well, we got to take a break. When we come back, the White House is turning again, and we will tell you why.
We get animated about the news. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care.
Senator Sanders, I'm gonna do something unusual. I'm gonna ask you a policy question.
How dare you? That's the problem, you're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Where the is the liberal media? No, these are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists.
For us, this system isn't working.
So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're gonna keep it real with them.
It's winter and it's cold this time of year, isn't it? Well, it might feel chilly and the wind might bite at your nose. Maybe you want to snuggle up with a hot chocolate or wrap up warm and wear your biggest coat. But in the grand scheme of things, our earth is too hot and it's getting even hotter. Our seasons are getting confused. Lots of birds are nesting earlier and spring flowers are coming out too soon. This is what climate change looks like. It's affecting so many of the things we love, both here in our own backyards and around the world. But we have hope because we know that together we can protect them if we act now and everyone does their bit. So this Christmas, give a gift of love and show the world you care.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for that to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It's not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them. Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at shoptyt.com. Vote and let's make change happen now.
Hey guys, welcome back to TYT. Anna and Nando with you. Nando in our super chats section, CA writes in and says, I love Nando. I want to adopt him with a Canadian flag, and that might be your ticket out of this place. So I don't know.
Thank you for that salvation. I needed it.
Dude, okay, so you get hit on in like the comment sections all the time, like all the time. Everyone's constantly telling you how good you look.
Just give him my number. Give him all my number. Tell him to text me. Tell him to call me.
Imitation Asian says, said it yesterday and I'll say it again today. Trump simps for AOC, just loves talking about her and her good lines.
What's that? I don't know that young person lingo. What does that mean?
I don't know what it means. I didn't want to admit it, but
Brad, do you know what it means? Whatever.
Simp is like you're a white knight coming to their rescue. They're like, oh God, and oh God. You're just like kind of obsessed in this in this very transparent way that you're like, I hope she sees you, King.
Okay, I get it. Okay. I think we're so old. Oh God.
I remember when people would refer to me as mom and I thought it was an insult. And I'd be like, I'm not that old yet. But no, mom is actually not about my age. Okay, so Twitch subs and donors. Let's talk about that a little bit. Obi Mom Kenobi is still killing it. Gifted 10 subs. Surf Jedi resubbed for 3 months and gifted a sub to the channel. And wouldn't you know, John Idarola, he rated the channel. That's what he did. He rated it. Game Set John is his handle. So you guys should check that out. And then finally subs, we have Zuna2 for 2 months, love TYT, and Oregon Knarf, new sub, and you sub with Prime. So thank you. We love you guys, and I hope you're enjoying our Twitch channel. All right, one more story before we end the main show and move on to our post game. Become a member, go to tyt.com/join. Health and Human Services Chief Alex Azar is awful. And he wants to fire the FDA Commissioner, Stephen Hahn, for refusing to roll out an unsafe and untested coronavirus vaccine, which would in theory help Donald Trump get reelected. So looks like there's a little bit of drama in the White House, more drama, which is something you can usually expect. And you know what else you can expect? Another segment of As the White House Turns.
Made some very big mistakes. I asked for his resignation.
I'm disappointed in the Attorney General.
So we keep hearing Donald Trump tease the release of a vaccine very, very soon. Well, Alex Azar has vented to his allies within the Health and Human Services Department about his unhappiness with Stephen Hahn, the top official in charge of the vaccine process, and discussed the prospect of seeking White House permission to remove him and a half dozen current and former and this is according to what a half dozen current and former administration officials have told Politico. So it seems like there's been a rivalry between them. So this could be about more than the release of a vaccine. Azar suspected that FDA officials were serving as the source of damaging stories about the department and its coronavirus response. He grew irritated over a perception that Hahn often dealt directly with the White House, bypassing his immediate supervisors at HHS. Nando, even in government, we have that professional managerial class drama.
Oh yeah.
Care to weigh in?
Yeah, going way over his head, going straight to the president. I mean, all this stuff. Yeah, seriously. I mean, all this stuff. I mean, it's fun to laugh at just how incompetent and petty and leaky this administration has always been. It's like the massive turnover. Like they can't keep anyone in any job for more than like 3 or 4 months. But it is also like one of the more compelling arguments for voting for Biden is just like a basic handling of things like the approvals for a vaccine. Like, can you imagine?
Right.
Like, can you imagine if like some Trump ghoul is in charge of like approving a vaccine? Like I would become an anti-vaxxer. Like I would become like one of these like cranks in Santa Monica.
Yeah, but it is a huge problem because reasonable people who are not anti-vaxxers are gonna be incredibly skeptical of anything coming out of the FDA under Trump's so-called leadership. I mean, he has politicized everything. Rightfully so, exactly. He has politicized everything, and we know that he has no problem risking the lives of others if it means that he can get an upper hand in his agenda, his political goals, his financial goals, whatever it is. So I know that if a vaccine were to come out like next week, and I'm not trying to discourage people from vaccinations, but just understand what I'm saying. He's not a good person. He's selfish and has no problem putting others at risk. So if something were to come out next week, yeah, I would be super skeptical about it. And I don't know what I would do in terms of like giving people advice on whether or not they should take that vaccine. You need to have people in government that you can trust with public safety and health. And we don't have that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the more disorienting things about this time in our country is that, like, everyone's been suffering through the coronavirus pandemic, everywhere in the world, but certain countries have kind of handled it okay, and there's a sense of like we're all in this together, and the government more or less is trying its best to figure it out, and they may make mistakes and all that stuff. But here, it is just this kind of chaotic war between people who just do not trust each other and do not trust the people in power. Even like the thing is, even on some level, even Trump's hardest supporters like wouldn't trust the information coming out from the White House. Like on some deep level, they don't really trust it either. So yeah, it is just it's.
I like that you brought that up because I have a neighbor who voted for Trump. He actually is a very lovely guy. He's like one of the nicest neighbors that I have. But what I thought was interesting, and I avoid talking politics with him because I knew he voted for Trump, and I don't want that to ruin our relationship. We get along really well. Let's just keep it at that. Please, I need a little bit of like calm in my personal life at least. And I noticed that early on in the pandemic, he was wearing a mask. And as he was walking, one of our other neighbors, who's also a Trump supporter, was like, "What do you have on your face? What are you wearing on your face?" And he's like, "I'm wearing a mask because there's a pandemic and you need to wear a mask to prevent the spread." And the guy mentioned Trump says this and that, and he's like, "Yeah, Trump's a moron when it comes to this issue." So I think you're right. I know I'm giving you anecdotal evidence, but like,
no, it's yeah.
I think that it's indicative of like just the public consciousness of what works and what doesn't work. And sure, Trump's gonna have his hardcore supporters who are gonna listen to him no matter what. But I don't think his entire base buys his nonsense regarding the pandemic and what you should and shouldn't do to stay safe. Real quick, Azar has gone as far as to float potential replacements for Han, identifying HHS testing czar Brett Girori or whatever his name is as a
who cares?
Pair of career civil servants. Anyway, basically, he wants to replace Han, who has been very friendly to Trump. Like he has gone along with Trump. He just refuses to like roll out a vaccine that hasn't been proven yet. And so Azar's like, you're not enough of a lackey. We're gonna try to bring in people who will lick boots even harder and will approve any vaccine regardless of how unsafe it is. And that is incredibly damaging and dangerous. We have to go now, but become a member, tyt.com/join to get our post game. See you there.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was too strong coffee? Yes, new, toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Each month we get closer to our fundraising goals at tyt.com/go. We're here to press on and carry on the work that we've been doing that's so important. We appreciate it so much when you help us to fight against social injustice, fight against corruption, to hold the government and the media accountable, and certainly corporations as well. We do this together. So let's build this progressive community together. Thank you for making us stronger and making the whole movement stronger. To make our voices heard, go to tyt.com/go.
Our generation actually has a voice to say who we want.
For the first time ever, we are the biggest voting bloc in America.
One of the people we've been talking about for months and months will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're ever going to vote.
Do you have any idea how much of a difference 4 years makes?
The action that we take right now doesn't just affect us right now.
Discussion is important, but words aren't the only thing. You have to take action.
So that we can actually affect real change instead of just talking about it.
Get out there and
take a part in making a difference.
Every voice really does matter, whether young or old, especially young people. Get out there and vote, damn it.
Now, more than ever, we can make a change.
I'm gonna vote because I want this country to be different.
I don't want the older generation to decide our future.
I want to make this world a better place for my son. You can make change.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote Earl.
Vote in real life.
Vote IRL.
Early voting is well underway all across the country, and we hope you've either already voted or have a plan in place to vote, so that you know your vote will count. And while you're at it, let everyone else know how important it is that they get out and vote too, with a vote hat or a blue NAMI shirt or any of the other election-themed items currently available at shoptyt.com. Vote and let's make change happen now.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We spun a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, everybody. Yay!
You know, this is where it started in a lot of ways.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
Turn your passions into potential investment opportunities. Whether it's cannabis, fashion, travel, video games, or anything in between, you tell us what you're interested in and we'll help you uncover the investment potential. Introducing Doe, our newest partner. With Doe, you can be an owner, not just a consumer, with no fees to trade individual stocks. Doe provides your daily one-stop investment shop with lists of companies that relate to your personal interests, relevant news on your favorite stocks, and videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes. Go to doe.com/TYT and download today.
I'm on right now.
Hey guys, what's up? All right, Anna and Nando with you. We're just gonna have fun in this post game because it's Friday. We ain't got no jobs and we ain't got shit to do. Except we do have jobs and this is what we're doing. But we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna dunk on Megyn Kelly. That's story number 1, and I love it. So, Megyn Kelly. We haven't seen much of Megyn Kelly lately, gratefully. And I'm grateful for that, thankfully. Let me start that again. I really fucked up that tease. It's not great.
It's funny. It's so weird. You're such a good broadcaster, Anna. You never make a mistake, and like it's just like this is like you never make a mistake.
I'm like at that point though where I'm like I can taste it. Like it's Friday, we're almost done. Like that's why I have like senioritis. You know, like senior year, you just can't take anything seriously. But anyway, let's go. Let's do it. I'm composed, ready to do this. Megyn Kelly, despite a fallout with Trump in 2015, remains very loyal to him. Could it be that she sees Trump as a potential meal ticket, a possibility toward improving her career prospects? Maybe. So she had burnt bridges with Trump during the 2016 election where Trump said some pretty hideous things about her and menstruation. We'll get to that in just a second. But last night, as Donald Trump was debating Joe Biden, Megyn Kelly decided to suck up to Trump through a series of tweets. In fact, Trump quote tweeted one of her tweets where she said, "Trump won this debate handily." No, he didn't. Biden wasn't a force at all. Trump was substantive. No, he wasn't. On point. No, he wasn't. Well-tempered. No, he wasn't. They had to cut his mic because of how he's not well-tempered. Definitely helped himself when it mattered most. And of course, Donald Trump loved that. He quote tweeted it with, "Thank you, Megyn." Now, during the debate, she also live tweeted all of this praise for Donald Trump. Trump's control here shows his interpretations, aggression in the first debate was a strategy. Yeah, he really thought about it ahead of time. That was his strategy. He can control himself just fine. And she also tweeted, Trump saw something that made him believe the interrupting version of him did not go over well with required core voting groups. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing.
Nando, jump in, and then I'll provide more evidence for why it's embarrassing. Go ahead.
Just, I mean, one of my favorite things is just like seeing these like right wingers just cuck themselves at the feet of Trump, whether it's Ted Cruz after Trump called his wife ugly and said that he was the Zodiac killer, and he's like kissing his feet. And Megyn Kelly obviously had that run in with Trump, and her career trajectory in the Trump era is just kind of perfect, right? Because she made a bet that I'm gonna be the Fox News person who's gonna stand tall against Trump because he's gonna lose. It was a cynical, calculated bet. And then, oh my God, Trump wins. But it granted her some sort of mainstream credibility, which she used to then get the big job at NBC, I think. She lasted less than a year because she's a right winger and she said some horribly racist thing and then got ousted. So now she got nowhere to go. She can't go mainstream. She can't go back, or she doesn't have any sort of right wing cred anymore. So she's trying to crawl her way back in to Trump's good graces so that she could have some semblance of relevance. But she's probably even making the wrong bet again. Yeah,
I think it's so embarrassing, and this industry is so gross. Like I don't think people fully appreciate how gross it really is and how miraculous it is that we're able to be ourselves and succeed to some degree, right? Because the majority of people are hyper aware of and concerned with their brand. And that's what drives me the craziest about this industry. It's like, ooh, what's your brand? What's your brand? What's your brand? And if you do anything that goes outside of your brand, right? Or if your brand is all of a sudden out of style, or it's garbage. Like we're supposed to be talking about, analyzing, delivering the news, right? It's not supposed to be about an individual's brand. And early on, I remember when someone asked me that question, what's your brand? And I was like up at night, like rocking back and forth. Like, I don't know what my brand is. What is my brand? What is my brand? I'm like, should it be women's rights? Should it be reproductive rights? And then it's like, what am I doing? No, my brand is me. I'm me. You either like me or you don't like me. And if you don't like me, then I guess I'm not gonna succeed in this path, but I'm not gonna like pretend to be something or someone I'm not, just so I can have a career doing this, right? Like, I can't do this unless I'm myself. But people like Dave Rubin, Megyn Kelly, all of these like feckless, self-absorbed, narcissistic losers who have nothing interesting to share with people. Like all they can do is ride on the coattails of someone in a position of power or latch on to someone else's brand to remain relevant. I mean, she's essentially as pathetic and sad as Lindsey Graham is. Like Lindsey Graham went from hating Donald Trump, saying all sorts of negative things about him, was under the impression that Trump would lose. Then Trump wins, and Lindsey Graham straight up, starts licking his boots and says very transparently that he wanted to remain relevant, which is why he changed his tune on Donald Trump. It's sad. It's sad when your personal identity takes a back seat to sucking up to power, just so you can make a dollar. I don't know.
Well, now I'm wondering what my brand is, but I have some advice for Megyn Kelly. I have an idea for a career trajectory for Megyn Kelly. Join the DSA, become a committed Marxist, start your own podcast, go hard left. You will become that. They will welcome you with open arms. You will get a huge audience right away, and you're gonna get to own the libs, which is something that you like to do. Yeah, that'll be fun. Megyn Kelly, come to our side. We'll welcome you.
So last night she also defended Donald Trump, saying MSNBC saying an avalanche of lying from Donald Trump. Now talking about when Maddow cried about what's happening at the border. Whatever, I don't care. So let's move on to what happened. What happened in 2015? So in 2015, during the debates, apparently Megyn Kelly asked poor Donnie Boy a question that was too hard. And so things kind of devolved from there. And he accused her of saying he accused her of going through something that's natural and okay and should be accepted. Here's a reminder of what that was.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
So accused her of being on her period. Wow, what a mature thing to say. And then later Trump tweeted, everybody should boycott Megyn Kelly's show, never worth watching, always a hit on Trump. She is sick and the most overrated person on TV. I love it.
Trump the media critic is where he's on his best. Like now, he's trying to attack Joe Biden for his H1N1 response, and it's just not landing. It's not. No one believes you even knew what the hell was going on during the H1N1. But like his media criticism, like, oh, Graydon Carter's Vanity Fair party not hot anymore. Megyn Kelly very overrated, very overrated on TV. Yeah, so that's when he's on his best. That's when you gotta love it.
I mean, it's entertaining. There's no question about that. And now she's trying to pretend like everything is water under the bridge. She just recently said, I think he's fine with me. I don't think I'm his favorite or that he's totally forgiven me. I did like Trump and we had a great relationship, but it was a presidential debate and you've got to throw your fastball. And they all got it. It wasn't just Trump. I understand better now that this is the package, the wrecking ball came in and the American people wanted a wrecking ball. Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. And the American people wanted a wrecking ball for a system that was not working for them. Oh, this new and improved enlightened Megyn Kelly, she really gets it now. Her finger's on the pulse. She really understands the appeal of Donald Trump now that she has no real career and desperately wants to get back into the good graces of conservative news media. Now she gets it.
I don't get it, like, like knock on wood, but like it's most likely that Trump is gonna lose, right? That's the most likely scenario. So like, what is she doing? Like, she's just gonna paint herself into a corner again. I don't get it.
Maybe, yeah, I don't get it either. But I like watching the train wreck. It's definitely enjoyable, and I have enjoyed seeing all of these right-wing males in politics get cucked one by one by Donald Trump. All these so-called strong alpha males who are being essentially unmanned by the president who spends the majority of his times crying and whining on social media. It's incredible. It's one of the most amazing things I've experienced doing this for work. Well, let's move on to some other stuff that's going on. The next thing is not a news story. In fact, this isn't even a new video, but it's been making its rounds again on Reddit and it caught Brett's attention. I loved it, and we wanna share it with you. So occasionally an old video pops up on Reddit and one of my favorite subreddits is the public freakout one, I'm not gonna lie. And this showed up on the public freakout subreddit. And so the whole point of this was, what if we turn the tables on cops and talk to them the way they talk to us? How would they react? Well, let's take a look.
Watching you take pictures of our parking lot. What's this about?
Is that a problem?
Yeah, this is a police law enforcement parking lot. That is a problem.
Oh. Who are you?
I'm Detective Mike Jardine.
Oh yeah? What are you working on? What are you working on right now?
Several cases.
Okay.
What is this about?
Are you working on something right now?
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
All right, what are you working on? What are you working on?
It doesn't matter what I'm working on. I'm asking you, what are you doing here taking pictures?
Where have you been today? Have you been here all day, or have you been out and about a little bit?
What is this about? Who are you?
I'm asking the questions. Where have you been today?
No,
have you been here?
I'm asking the questions. You're on this property. You're on this property, so you need to answer my questions.
Are you drunk? Why are you slurring your words today? So have you been here all day, or have you been out Have you been to the bar today at all?
Who are you?
Have you been to the bar today?
Who are you?
I'm an investigator.
Investigator for who?
Investigative journalist. I investigate corrupt officials. So I'm wondering, where have you been today? Have you been here all day, or have you been out at the bar at all?
Working on a fraud case. That's
Okay.
where I've been.
Okay. Have you been to the bar at all today?
No.
Okay. You got any drugs on you? Have you used any drugs today?
What a ridiculous question.
I love that.
That's good. That's good. I mean, that takes some huevos. I'm scared. When a cop talks to me, I'm always like, yes, officer. Thank you, officer. Sorry, officer.
Oh,
you know.
Totally. No, but like it shows you how effective it is to speak confidently, right? And to speak with authority, because from the jump, this guy, whoever he is, speaks with authority and asks questions as if he has authority. And by the way, I mean, he's not doing anything illegal, but it is really interesting to see just like the way this detective reacted, because he seems a little nervous as he's answering the questions.
He's like, am I doing something wrong? Like, it's like, is it possible that this guy is like some sort of like New York Times person or something that's gonna, it's like definitely in the back of his mind.
And he might be a perfectly lovely person. Like, we don't know anything about Detective Jardine, like nothing. And he's like, he's obviously confused and he seems a little nervous, but he's answering every single question. But there's more.
Drinks today.
No, that's a ridiculous question. I wanted to comment on that as well, because that triggered the one terrible interaction I had with a sheriff from the sheriff's department in Los Angeles. I had made an illegal U-turn. This is during lunch, work time. Me, John, 2 other people from work. We go to lunch. I'm driving. I did an illegal U-turn. I deserved a ticket, no question about it. I got caught, pulled over immediately, asked me if I knew what I was getting pulled over for, said yes, I made an illegal U-turn. I apologize, officer, give me the ticket, like let's move on. And he immediately starts accusing me of being on my phone, which by the way, my cell phone was in my book bag in the back seat. Like my phone was nowhere near me. And he told me to get out of the car. It was the most terrifying, it was terrifying because he ended up letting me go and he didn't even give me a ticket after he asked me what I do for work. And once I told him I work in media, and then he's like, where's your office? And I pointed to where our studio is, because I was close by our studio. He ended up letting me go, but he was creepy. He was super into my personal space. I was sobbing because I'd never been asked to step out of my vehicle before. I wasn't being combative with him in any way. So that moment from that fun video triggered that for me, where you get accused of something that you're not doing. And you're just, anyway, it was scary. But let's forget about the sad, scary part of policing and move on to the second part of this video, because there was more from this interaction. Let's watch.
Do you know where he's been today?
I don't keep tabs on him.
Okay.
Out and about.
Do you know what time his shift started?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Does he usually drink on the job, or no? Not that anybody knows of for sure. Have you guys ever breathalyzed him while he's been on the job? Would you submit to a breathalyzer for me right now?
You're ridiculous. You know that? You've got about 5 minutes to get out of here right now.
Or what?
Or what? You're on
my property.
This isn't your property.
It is. Shut the hell up. Get out of here now.
What'd you say?
I said shut up and get out of here.
No, you get out of here now.
Hey, you better get it. You better get your boy. Get your butt back in your office and do your job.
You shut up and get out of here.
You get your butt back in your office and do your job.
No.
You quit drinking on the job. You understand me?
Whatever.
You punk ass. You get your ass back in there. You don't look back here again. I'll be watching you. You are now under investigation.
To be clear, it has not been proven that Detective Mike Jardine is or was drinking on the job.
That is the most
second half is
video
so much
of all
better.
time. It's amazing. He went back inside. He went back inside to do his job.
Well,
he did it.
It's just funny because, like, I mean, I'm guessing most police stations or all police stations are like on like public property, you know, like owned by taxpayers. I guess in theory, you know, like
with our money.
Right. And he's like, "This is my property." He's like, "No, this is my property." He's like, "Oh wait, maybe he's right."
Oh my God! But look, honestly, that could have gone
really badly,
terribly wrong. And so I actually want to give Detective Mike Jardine credit for
like not shooting this guy.
I know. That's how messed up this whole policing situation is, where the first time I saw that video, I was on the edge of my seat because I was terrified that something was gonna go awry, because that's likely to happen based on what we've seen with countless police videos. But that's why I'm like, okay, well, he did keep calm, so that's good. And it wasn't just him, it was the other cop too. I love how the other cop is like, no, I don't keep tabs on him. Am I in trouble? Like, what's going on?
Right, like they're thrown off, you know, they're off their game. They just don't understand what it's like to not be in a position of absolute authority. Oh man, amazing. That was fun. That was better. That was so much better than I could even have dreamed of. I tried to watch it when you guys sent it to me in the rundown, and for whatever reason I couldn't play it. Like asked me to start the Reddit app, and I don't have the Reddit app and the thing, and so I'm glad I'm seeing it cold.
So as I mentioned, I want to give credit to whoever the gentleman was behind the camera. Since it was posted on Reddit, I mean, I'm not personally sure. It was posted by the Reddit user Sir Dabsalot 594. Wow. So thank you, Sir Dabsalot 594, and thank you to the best subreddit page, Public Freakout, which I like to watch when I'm stoned. All right, well, let's move on to other news. Have you ever watched that channel? That subreddit, like the videos posted on that subreddit while stoned?
Reddit is like something that I don't touch. I don't.
Reddit? Okay, one second, because I'm very curious. I get that people, you know, don't like Reddit because of some of the stuff that's been posted on it. But like, how is Reddit demonstrably worse than Twitter? Like Twitter is 100 times worse.
No, I am not making any moral judgment on Reddit or the content of Reddit. It's just confused. The interface is confusing. I don't know how it works. Upvote, downvote, but I can't follow the threads and the conversations. I just don't know how it works. There's so many subreddits. It's like I'm like paralyzed by choice. It's like the whole thing is like my Twitter feed is like one thing, you know, and it goes up and down. Reddit's like, you know, I don't know any of these cool subreddits that the kids are hanging out in. So yeah, maybe you can give me a Reddit tutorial and I'll do it. I'm not like, you know, that's a place for toxic alt-right people or something.
Okay.
No, I'm not like that.
Okay, good.
Sorry, I just have to chime in. You have to get the app. The app eliminates every criticism you have of Reddit because it is organized so much better, and it is easy to scroll through and navigate. Heartily recommend.
Yeah, definitely. And you'll become an expert on Reddit once you just start reading like the Dave Rubin subreddit. That's how I became an expert on using Reddit. I'm like, oh my God, Reddit is the most amazing thing ever. Like Dave Rubin's subreddit got taken over by people who don't like Dave Rubin, and they're posting the funniest content. And so it started with that, and then it expanded to Public Freakout, which then later became my favorite subreddit. Yeah, it's fun. You find fun stuff there. So thank you to the fine people over at Reddit. Thank you for entertaining me while I'm stoned late at night, having trouble sleeping. We do have some other news to share with you, including Donald Trump's delusions regarding last night. So let's talk about it. After last night's presidential debate, Donald Trump was desperately searching for any type of validation, any type of indication that he did well. And so he retweeted these ridiculous Twitter polls that were obviously taken over by his supporters. So let me give you a few examples. The Las Vegas Review-Journal asked Twitter users who won tonight's presidential debate, and 92% of them said that Donald Trump did.
Hell yeah.
Similar thing happened with The Blaze. Donald Trump tweeted that as well. And with Clay Travis, I don't know who that is, but his Twitter followers also believed that Donald Trump did really well. But of course, these are not like, the methodology behind this polling is not sound. Okay, so the sample is a little biased if you get what I'm saying. And the Daily Wire, something very similar happened with that, where 95% of the Daily Wire's Twitter followers believe that Donald Trump did really well. Now, those sources are ridiculous. To be clear, these polls are just based on how Twitter followers feel. And because they can so easily be gamed, there is no statistically relevant specification of the sample size. The results only reveal the political bent of the audience. You guys already knew that, but just to be clear, these are not sound polls. They don't mean anything. And so I do want to give you the results of, the real results, actual polling that indicates that Trump actually didn't do well at all. But before we do that, let's toss to this video, because CNN had a panel of undecided voters who watched the debate. And then they were asked, hey, so what do you think? Who won the debate? Let's take a look.
All right, what I want to ask you now, this is what our viewers have been waiting for. And that is this question about who you think won this particular debate. If you can raise your hands for this unofficial vote, the official vote will come at the ballot box for president. The unofficial vote about who won the debate, who thinks Donald Trump won this debate? I don't see any hands. That's a 0. How many people think Joe Biden won this debate? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many people think it was a draw? 1, 2. 2 people say it's a draw. 0 people say Donald Trump. 9 people, Wolf, say Joe Biden.
Curious that Donald Trump didn't tweet that video or any of the actual polls that were done on his performance last night. But Nando, what did you think about the debate?
Well, okay, so here I have my slightly curmudgeon-y take on all this kind of thing is semi-similar to our fact check debate in that it drives me crazy because it's kind of this meta media narrative that is impossible to know and dominates the media coverage of any debate, is like trying to figure out who won the debate. It's literally an impossible question to answer. Like you're putting yourself in the position of like voters instead of like being a media person. I don't know. It's like it's weird to me, and I hate it. And I can never know how to answer that question because I can't put myself in the mind of like an average voter. I'm not an average voter. I'm like a media person. I work in the news. It's like it's different. So, but that being said, I mean, I think Biden won in the sense that like nothing terrible happened to him and he just needs to like coast to victory at this point. I don't know how to explain it. Like Trump needs something dramatic to change in the race, like some sort of, event that will swing it in his direction, kind of like the James Comey intervention at the end of the 2016 campaign, which probably did have some sort of bump for Trump or at least against Hillary. Some sort of big event has to happen, and a debate is a big event. And if it just kind of proceeds normally without any great thing, then Biden by kind of default won. So he won.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying. So I don't know if I've ever like openly talked about this. I pretty much hate electoral politics. Like I hate covering it. I hate being part of it. I don't really have that much to say. Debates are a little different, at least if we're covering the debate. It's about policy. So I love discussing policy. I love discussing that kind of stuff. I don't like discussing like just the electoral I hate talking about polling. The horse race, yeah, exactly right. And so whenever we have like election night coverage, especially when we're covering like some primary race and like some random state, and it's like Cenk gets so excited, John gets so excited. John is like, oh, and then these numbers and those numbers, and I'm just like, oh my god, I hate this so much. But I'm always happy when John's on the panel because like I can just take a load off and interject if I have something to say. But most of the time, I'm like, oh my god, I hate all of this. Like this is like,
well,
anyway,
there's
like yeah.
I mean, well. You'll see like the Chris Cillizas of the world be like, that comment just played really well with voters in Iowa. And it's like, you don't know
It's the focus group nature of it. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Like I was about to say a bad word. I know you can't say it on the post game, but yeah, it's just it's this weird thing where they've positioned themselves as theater critics rather than journalists or analysts in any way. They're theater critics. They're trying to judge the performance of it all, the spectacle of it all, of how some statement plays with some hypothetical person. In a country of 330 million people, it's like it's a totally pointless exercise. To like predict how some person who is not yourself is going to react to something. It's just literally an impossible thing to do, and it's a way to sort of abrogate the responsibility of doing the hard thing of trying to understand what would be best for the country, because that's hard. It's very easy to just like sit and watch a debate and be like, oh, that was a good zinger from the president, and it's gonna really play with like soccer moms in the suburbs of Waukesha County, Wisconsin, which is a crucial county for that person or whatever. And it's like it's all crap. It's all nonsense. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
And also, we've complained about the Electoral College so many times, but I don't care about Iowa, and I hate like the Iowa. Like, okay, who cares? Who cares? I get it. Because of the way the Electoral College and our electoral system is set up, everyone has to pretend like Iowa's the most important thing in the world, but it's not. In the grand scheme of things, it's not, and it shouldn't be. Like, it's not that I have anything against people of Iowa, but Iowa is like this tiny little state in the grand scheme of things, and I just hate the way everything works. Like everyone lives like on the coast, but the coasts don't freaking matter. They don't matter. They don't matter. Iowa matters. Yeah. Ohio matters. Like I can't stand electoral politics. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it. I hate hours upon hours upon hours of speculating and predicting and bloviating and all this nonsense. Like,
I just hate. Class of political journalists gets obsessed with this kind of thing. It's like, it's like a lot of it has to do with like the West Wing, which is like, where like, oh my God, the candidates are in Philadelphia. What kind of cheese will they choose on their cheesesteak? That'll really depend how the voters of Philadelphia react to a certain politician. And it was like a whole thing on the West Wing where like, or I think Barack Obama got in trouble for like ordering Swiss cheese on his cheesesteak instead of the real thing that real heads know. You got to get Cheese Whiz on your cheesesteak, and that's gonna affect the voters of the thing. And it's like, shut up. This is all garbage.
It's the pageantry and all of that. Well, since I promised, I'll give you what the actual poll said regarding last night's debate. YouGov Snap poll of nearly 500 viewers, all registered voters, revealed that 54% thought Biden was the winner. See, like even that doesn't make me feel good. Really, only 54% thought that Biden was the winner. Like, how do you watch Donald Trump's moronic behavior and think like, oh, nailed it. 35% though thought Trump had won, while 9% called it a tie.
The problem with that kind of poll is that it is not indicative of literally anything other than just partisanship. Like if you look at the polls overall, and Biden is probably at 54-ish%. It's like those people think he won. There you go. Like it's not a sort of clear-headed look at his performance vis-a-vis Trump in the debate. It is like just a reflection of their partisan preferences. So that kind of poll is absolutely meaningless. It's just noise. Really, like it doesn't make any. It doesn't reflect any sort of reality or any objective reality. Is the point?
And at the end of the day, I think the one thing that everyone does seem to agree on is that last night's debate is unlikely to really change anyone's mind. I think most people know who they're going to vote for at this point. And so I just want the election to happen already. I want it to happen, and then a month later, we'll start talking about the midterm elections, and I'll think about all the different ways in which I want to cause self-harm. But that's the way it works. It's nonstop, like pageantry, nonstop horse race, nonstop nonsense, which, I think part of the reason why it frustrates me so much is because the way it's covered does shift the focus away from policy and solutions. and instead talks about it as if it's just nothing more than a blood sport, and it's gross, and I hate it. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, Nando, thank you for hosting today. Everyone, if you enjoyed the honesty, the sincerity, the rawness of our content today, you should check out Weekends with me and Nando tomorrow. Every Saturday, we host a show together for Jacobin. Go to youtube.com/JacobinMag to subscribe. And yeah, we're live at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific.
No.
See you there.
No, backwards. 10 a.m. Pacific.
Oh, sorry.
1 p.m.
Yeah,
time.
10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. You guys get the point. You know that. All right, cool. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, it's the Happy Half Hour, which we pre-tape on Wednesday and air on Friday. So congratulations, Dodgers, for winning the World Series, really, from the bottom of my heart. The person who you may or may not have heard based on how we record this is one of your favorites, one of my favorites, TYT OG, Mark Thompson. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, kids. It's a pleasure to be here. And I have to say, best music on TYT. And well, the TYT music is a competitive field because I understand it's constantly changing. But I'm just saying that vibe that you've laid down, it's actually gotten me to pour a little bit of a drink as I enjoy your, I know you start this effort usually by yourself. You kind of have some remarks, and I'll enjoy those opening remarks as I sip this wine from this oversized glass, which isn't even the biggest glass in the house, but it's the biggest glass I could find.
Sir, the way that you handle it just proves that you know what you're doing. Like, I can't hold a wine. I hold a wine glass. I've got these like stemless martini situations. If it were a wine glass, I'd hold it like this.
Yeah.
And I can't. And I've always wanted to master what you're doing, which is the hold. And it's like there's an angle, that angle right there. That angle is an expert's angle.
Well, I was really unaware of my expertise, but now I've become a little bit self-conscious, maybe a little proud of my expertise. I'll tell you one thing. There's a reason that there's a stem to wine glasses. And the reason is, of course, that to hold it in your hand is to have the beverage warmed by your body temperature. And that apparently, among wine aficionados, is a problem. It changes the consistency of the wine. So they built this stem thing in there so you can hold the wine and actually drink the wine without ever having to make contact with the glass and changing that chemical makeup.
So that's amazing, and I believe you whether you are totally bullshitting or not.
Oh, that's really true. I didn't say it in a way you would wonder.
I thought that the wine glass stem was so that something could poke out the bottom as you clutch the glass to cling to hope. And it would just be like, You can then keep clutching it as you place it on the ground, and then bring it back up to your lips and just be like, oh, I need this.
That is an acceptable alternative explanation.
Thank you for that. The explanation for the music, to be honest, and I don't know if everyone knows this. Thank you for pointing it out, acknowledging the beauty of that. It was chosen by my wife, the lovely The Brooke Marks, who chose as I was freaking out over a number of things. She's like, here's 3 tracks, just use them. And we use them. That's what we do. But it does have the best musical instrument, in my estimation, is the Hammond organ, which is there's a spinning situation going on inside it. Fantastic. So thank you for.
Was there an actual Hammond who created the Hammond organ? Must be, right?
John Hammond, the same man who invented Jurassic Park.
Now that I don't believe, but I like the way you said it.
Yeah, no, I think Hammond is a person. The same way it's like I don't know.
The Les Paul, like the Les Paul guitar.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Hammond's a person. Someone will know. Someone in our TYT audience will know.
Please, there is and for everyone who's a TYT fan, they're on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. There's a TYT fan who works at Guitar Center, who I've talked to, who will know the answer. So there's that.
Oh, sure.
I do want to check in with you, Mark, to see how you've held up during the quarantine, and this is a great opportunity to do that in our segment, Stay Safe, Stay Sane. Another great tune chosen by Alex in this situation. Alex, super producer and editor, Predator. She does everything.
Well done.
I did reach out to some folks out there to ask how they're staying safe and staying sane. So if you see my tweets on Wednesday, that's what this is about. And so I'm gonna go through some and then we'll find out how Mark's holding on. So the Ritual of Chad says, seeing you on Friday, TDR live. Thank you, Chad, for that. I'm not bold enough to take that photo of myself and make it my avatar. Did everyone see that? Did everyone get a chance to see Chad? Is he mid-ritual? I don't know. Speaking of psychedelic experiences, Long Beach Huntington says, mushrooms, good. I hope you're speaking of the umami variety and maybe the psychedelic, who knows? And then Hades Kitty says this, and it was AOC's Twitch stream, which essentially broke the entire Twitch, everything, that she had 400,000 people watching at once with Ilhan Omar, Pokimane, Myth, and Hassan Piker, who organized the whole thing, which he's grown up. Mark, how are you holding up during this whole thing? You've been through a lot this year. Your house nearly burned down.
Yes.
You had to move. How are you holding up, sir?
It's been, I'm doing okay. It's been a wild year. You're right. My neighborhood burned. And you know who moved into my neighborhood 2 doors up, right as I was moving out? Is Travis Scott. You know, Travis Scott, the hip hop artist, got a McDonald's meal named after him. You know, he's one of the Kardashian baby daddies. He's got a lot going on. He's got a lot more moving parts to his life.
Did you meet Travis Scott during all of this?
No, I didn't. But I saw his people roll. He rolls heavy, if you know what I mean. He rolls deep. He rolls with a bunch of security people. He's got a stylist and a designer. And I mean, there's like a flotilla of people who come onto this small street. And he's living in a 20,000 square foot home. My home is a small home, really tiny. And you know, my home could fit in his foyer, you know. But I was worried. This is how the whole world of, you know, my world just has taken all these sideways moves. I was worried that when the word got out that he was moving into the neighborhood, that the person who was buying my house, because we were close to, you know, the closing date where everything is done, I was worried they were going to go, hey, you know what, man, we don't want to be around big parties, or we don't want to be around hip hop, or whatever their thing would be. And they just didn't want to be around that. And but they didn't. They thought it was cool, which was great. So, and it is kind of cool in a way. It's just, I'm saying, I didn't meet him, and I met everybody else. I mean, he's all of his people. So he's moved in, we moved out. I had to move to Venice, California temporarily. I lived 40 feet from a homeless encampment for 10 months.
Yes, I also lived in Venice. That is how it is.
Venice is a little bit funky. There was a shooting, a double murder to a block from me during the time I was there. So it's a funky world. Now we've moved away again, and we're trying to settle in. And honestly, my biggest concern is I've got a cat that's really sick. And it sounds weird with all that stuff I just mentioned, but I'm so moved by this poor cat's plight that it takes a lot of emotion in me to even think about anything else. And he's been sick for a long time, but I'm just hoping that I'm doing the right thing. I've got a whole situation with his care that I'm worried about. So anyway, but the answer is truly, apart from that, it's been okay. I mean, I'm happy. I've got a radio show. I can do the radio show from remote studios, and I can do TYT this way. So I mean, Brett, when you think about it, Brett, I mean, I know it's like, oh, I feel so lucky. I feel so blessed, man. # blessed. But it is true that I do feel fortunate that I still am gainfully employed or otherwise connected to the world without there being too many interruptions. So things are pretty good.
I just want to say that your setup is sexy. Is that weird to say? Your setup is so sexy. It's like what is that, velvet? You got like a velvet curtain situation.
This is like, it's funny you say that. I think it feels like Vegas showroom meets Magic Castle meets. Don't you expect?
I would have sex with both those things.
Think of a card, any card. All right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm there.
But I like that you think it's sexy. All right.
It is. I like red is bold. When I was in college, I was an idiot. And my buddy and I were like, we should paint our room and we'll paint it back at the end of the term, but we're gonna paint it red. And then we did one coat and it looked terrible, but I was like, this is brooding and I'm interesting.
Who's the guy who played the father in Back to the Future?
Skip, you know this.
Crispin Glover.
There it is.
Crispin Glover. Okay, so very well done. So apparently, I know a girl who dated him for a short time. He painted his entire place black on the inside, which is a very bold move.
I like places that are black on the outside. Whenever I see a house, someone paints it black, I'm like, that's probably pretty smart for some energy reason, not just like in terms of like your Edison bill, but also like there's an energy to it. There's one in my neighborhood that's very awesome looking. Anyways, speaking of awesome things, we have a lot of awesome things to talk about. The whole show normally has like a bunch of different segments. We're just gonna talk about the best things ever of the week because there's so many of them. There will be a presidential dance contest later. Stick around, we got more when we return. All right, it is time to talk about the best things ever that are happening this week. There's so many of them that the show is all that from here on out. The best things ever of the week. We're here with Mark Thompson, and essentially, Mark, I don't know if you're familiar with the Senator Lindsey Graham. Are you?
No, tell me about it.
So ridiculous. So I always ask people, and follow HHH on TYT. I'm gonna start tweeting from there to ask folks where like what's getting them through the week. So at HHH on TYT. But one response that we got for what's keeping you sane, I think it's Ennis Smith who said Lindsey Graham begging for money. And this is a thing that is fantastic. In essentially a race that is a dead heat in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham has been going around everywhere asking for money, and it has gone to like a new level this week. But to give you an idea of how much he's getting outraised at essentially a 2-to-1 margin, here is Lindsey Graham going from show to show, begging people to donate to his campaign.
I can tell you there's a lot of money being raised in this campaign. I'd like to know where the hell some of it's coming from. But that's not your problem.
I'm getting outraised 3-to-1, outspent 4-to-1. If you want to help me fight back, go to lindseygraham.com. $5 or $10 from half your audience would fill in the gap that I'm facing.
I'm being killed financially. This money is because they hate my guts. Get on our website, lindseygraham.com. $5 or $10 goes a long way.
I'm getting overwhelmed.
Yeah,
lindseygraham.com, help me.
You're right. That was so much better than even I thought it was going to be. That was great.
It's so great because like there's a point where like Sean Hannity has him on his show and he's like, all right, Lindsay, say your piece. I need to go to break. And he's like, all right, make your last plea for cash. He's being outraised 2-1. And he's taking it to a different level this week because now he's asking for an investigation into Act Blue, which is just a way that people who are human beings can give like $2 to a political cause. So Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham, who has seen a tsunami of Democratic small dollar donations flood to the South Carolina candidate race for Jamie Harrison, who's running against, says the sources of the massive amounts of money flowing through Act Blue and other groups need to be reviewed by policymakers. And his actual quote was, "Where is all the money coming from Act Blue coming from? How easy would it be to just have a bunch of prepaid credit cards?" Like he is scheming, trying to find out how people would come together and how these like nefarious folks would have this giant plan. When really the simplest explanation is like, people just hate you, dude.
Well, if I were Lindsey Graham, I would, well, I don't want to give him tips as to what to say, but I mean, he's got completely the most pathetic plea that one could imagine, you know. It's basically, I'm losing, help me win. As you say, you're losing for a reason. People feel rallied either from, you know, your constituency that existed prior to the last 4 years, or those who've seen you, you know, be an utter sycophantic, you know, moron over the last 4 years, and they've been drawn into the race, and they want to see you defeated. They want to see you ground into dust. That is probably accounting for a lot of the money. So, but you're right. I'd expected to see him sort of laid bare, but boy, he really lays himself bare. It's kind of, as I say, sad. If he wasn't such an evil guy, I would consider it sad.
Like, that's the thing, is like, there's people out there where I'm like, you're evil. With Lindsey Graham, I'm just like, you're sad and pathetic. But they do talk about the banality of evil. And I can't think of anything more banal than Lindsey Graham going like, and he admitted it when John McCain died, and he swung from being John McCain's like best friend and previously Joe Biden's best friend into saying like, I just gotta be relevant, so I'm gonna say whatever Trump says, even though in the past he called him a race baiting bigot.
Well, he called him race baiting bigot. He called him xenophobic. He called him stupid. I mean, it was he had every adjective to diminish Donald Trump. And then of course, when Donald Trump won, he wants to play golf, he wants to be close to power. Trump has counted on that through his life and certainly through his presidential career. And Lindsey Graham was leading the parade to the point that you were saying, gosh, what is the compromise on Lindsey Graham? What is the problem here? You know, I mean, it seemed to defy explanation as he had to prop up more and more lunacy that came out of the White House. So yeah, it's no surprise that he's in a fight for his political life, you know?
Yeah, I don't like, we all know what the compromise on Lindsey Graham is. And if he was a Democrat, people would be like, just be you, dude. Just go do your thing. We get it. It's fine. But like, if you're a Republican, I just feel like he doesn't even need the compromise to come into play, so to speak. Like, I think that he just needs to be around power, and it's so sad. The Lincoln Project did a whole thing where like they showed maggots eating away at a carcass, and we're like, this guy's just a parasite that needs a host. So it's so sad. And the answer, Lindsey Graham, as I wrote in the lower third earlier this week, was just like, the investigation is in. The reason so many people are donating to your opponent is because you suck. Period.
Well, I think also I would say the suckiness has really come to the center and front of the stage in a way that we had never dreamt, you know, one was capable of, you know, of bringing it. And meaning, if you can sing it that loud and proud, you know, kissing Donald Trump's I mean, wow. Well, then you're likely going to have to suffer some of the consequences, and he's suffering them now.
Yeah. He is, and I hope he suffers them. Like, there's so much stuff that we have to plan for election night, Asher and me, when we're like producing all this stuff. we have so much stuff planned for if Lindsey Graham loses, and I'm afraid to like finish it because it might jinx it. I hope he loses. Speaking of Donald Trump, there's a lot of folks. You always wonder, like, what are Trump fans thinking along the way? How are they believing that Trump has made their lives better when really, as recently as this week, he's basically admitted that his tax cuts are just for the rich? But there's this video that surfaced on Reddit that is amazing that we just need to show you. It's a son trying to prove to his father that essentially, I think it's his son, that essentially, like, as much as he thinks Trump's made his life better, it actually hasn't.
No.
To me, there's a huge difference. What Donald Trump has done for me compared to what Barack Obama did to
What? You're unemployed and 2 DUIs later? Has Trump done for you? In his presidency, you've got 2 DUIs and you've not had a job. Posted.
You better not post that.
It's so true. There was another thing by Jordan Klepper, who's been on TYT, who's fantastic, who interviewed someone who's a Trump fan at a rally and was like, how has Trump made your life better? And he's like, oh, it's made it amazing. And the response was, and the question was like, what do you do for a living? And the answer was, I'm a debt collector. That's why I've made more money. Like, it's crazy. Like, Mark, why do you think that people still cling to Trump, even though it is very clear that under the Trump administration, it has only made life better for folks who benefit from his massive tax cuts?
You know, this is really fascinating, and it's probably part of a longer conversation, or more complicated. But just a couple of bullet points. There's a lot of identity, personal identity, in the choice we make about what candidate we're going to vote for or support, and particularly in the case of Donald Trump, because you're really out there in a way with a bold political choice, to be kind about it. All right. So backtracking on that is sort of backtracking on yourself. And so I really think that there is a quality of personal identity that's so far out there on the limb that you can't crawl back. It comes from, I know this comes from the world of animal rights. If if you're trying to get people to give up meat or give up eating animals, and you show them all the reasons, all the cruelty, the horror, and then you show them forget about that, all the health reasons they should do it. I mean, that they're shaving years off their life by consuming meat and all these other things. They still, oftentimes, particularly men, cling to their decision and their firmness about their dietary choice more than before you gave them all the explanations, which are perfectly logical. I really feel that there's overlap with the political identity. But the other thing is that I feel as though, obviously, and you saw a little bit, I thought, in that clip, that guy feels left out of the system. Like, he doesn't feel like he's enjoying any kind of economic prosperity, and he's not going to. And so here's this strong man who doesn't, take smack from a bunch of libs and the mainstream media. And you know what? He sounds like I do, irritated, angry, and ready for battle. I really think that accounts for a lot of his support.
So you mentioned you produced a movie that people can watch. Was it The Game Changers? Was that the movie that you produced?
Right.
Yeah, that's about like that. And when you say that, like, I hate when people have a point that's very accurate, that absolutely applies to me. That's the one. That's the one where I'm like, yeah, it's bad for me, and I love meat, and you're right. And every time I see, and it was also the other producers are like famous athletes who have absolutely like beaten it, and then who have actually like won huge championships while not eating meat, and then former co-host Sam Shocker, who was on Common Room last week, who's like, yeah, I am a vegan and all that stuff, and I supplemented my diet in ways that made it totally fine for me to like breastfeed my baby without all the things people say are like the problem with veganism. Like, yes, that is exactly it. Folks cling so tightly to these points because they're afraid to just accept new information. And that's exactly what that happened in that underground bar in the basement of that dude's house. And I do want to say, like when it comes to like his 401k, which he said while we were bleeping stuff, he's like, my 401k is great under Trump. I just want to say that under Trump, the Dow has improved 42%, and under Obama, it improved 148%. That's it. Cut it in half. Because of 4 years versus 8 years, it's still fine. I know there was like a depression, but there's also the recession during the COVID situation.
During the start of the Obama administration. I mean, but again, it's less to do with facts and more to do with personal identity. You know, I'm thrown in personally with this guy. You know, and then the more you're assailed, you know, the more you're attacked. This is my point about, you know, that's why I use the parallel with the meat or with whatever. You know, Dad, you're gonna take years off your life, or your doctor says your cholesterol is out of control and your blood pressure's out of control. You got to give this meat up. Well, you know what? Screw that. No one's gonna tell me what to eat. No one's gonna tell me how to be. You know, and there's a quality of strength and self-empowerment in that moment. The problem is you're leading to your own undoing. You know.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of undoing.
Yes.
Is Rudy Giuliani being undone by Borat? Borat? I said it weird. I've had 2 martinis. We'll have the 3rd after the break. Don't go away. More best things ever of the week, because there are so many. I don't know if you saw this, but Rudy Giuliani, who is going after Hunter Biden because of compromise, essentially has to encounter some compromise of his own. I don't know if you saw some of the images that happened, but essentially he was caught with a young seeming girl doing some weird stuff. And it came out that it was from Borat's subsequent movie film, which is on Amazon Prime Video today, assuming you're watching the first airing of this. And so essentially, so you get the full understanding of what's going on. We're gonna play a little bit of the trailer for Borat. So take a look so you understand fully that Borat is trying to give away his daughter, who is the girl that you just saw in those photos with Rudy Giuliani handling his pants.
I'm here to give my daughter as a gift to someone close to the throne.
I need a dress with real sexy peels.
This is a bag that just goes over the dress.
Very nice.
I really like this.
Let us present Sandra Jessica Parker Drummond.
So essentially, in the new movie, the new Borat subsequent movie film, he is giving away his daughter, and he is apparently found in a room with Rudy Giuliani. So here is some more information about it. On what appear to be hidden cameras, we see Giuliani remove the girl's microphone and ask for her phone number and address as she sits down on the bed. He starts patting her backside as she removes the microphone from his pants. Giuliani then lies down on the bed and starts sticking his hands down his pants in a suggestive manner, according to the Daily Beast. But before anything can happen, Borat bursts into the room and shouts, "Put down your crumb," his preferred word for penis. "She's 15, she is too old for you." The startled Giuliani, who had no reason to believe his interviewer was underage, sits up abruptly and gets out of there as fast as he can. Quote, "Rudy, Trump will be disappointed. You are leaving hotel without golden shower," Borat yells after him, which is amazing.
Could you read that whole thing, just the first part again, a little more slowly, if you would please? I was really getting sexed up.
The startled Giuliani.
Can you leave Rudy Giuliani out?
You will be disappointed. You're leaving your hotel without the golden shower. Does it feel good for you, Mark Thompson?
I'm dying to see this and wondering how creepy a moment this was. I mean, do we know? I mean, it definitely seems in press reports and the way you described it and the little bit that we saw, we saw the screen grab. I mean, it's not good, but I mean, on the creep meter, I'm wondering exactly where it's coming in.
It makes me so happy that this happened. Like, this is creepy and horrifying, but essentially, the character, it's played by a 24-year-old actress, but the character is 15. And this image of Rudy Giuliani lying down is exactly what that piece of farts deserves. Because Rudy Giuliani has been spending the last 3 years going around the world to find some kind of compromising materials on Hunter Biden. And yes, Hunter Biden has had problems, and so has Donald Trump Jr., and so has everyone in the Trump circle. And so I don't understand how this is Trump's like big October surprise to go after Donald Trump or to Hunter Biden. But at this moment, for this information to come out about Rudy Giuliani, who's actively trying to get other people to buy into this nonsense, to expose how fragile everybody's public persona and reputation is, this is exactly what everybody needs.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, you're right that it's sort of karma repaid right away. It's pretty incredible. And as I say, I have to see it. I mean, just when you thought that Sacha Baron Cohen couldn't wring any more laughs or insane moments out of the Borat character, now I'm running to Amazon Prime for tonight's, I guess tonight when it airs, tonight's viewing of it.
Yeah,
I'd have a big Borat party were it not for COVID-19, Brad. I can't. I'm isolated. I can't do it.
Everybody can have party. It's been 14 years since everyone I knew, and I was in a frat. And I guess more than 14 years ago, 16 years ago, I was in a frat. Everybody do Borat voice.
I was wondering why you did it so well. That's why.
Because everyone reminds you. It was a thing that you had to do. It was like Austin Powers.
That was Ali G when you were in the frat. Was it Ali G?
It was absolutely.
Yeah, man, so great. I mean, Ali G was just the best.
Booyah, kasha. All right, we don't have a lot of time, so let's move on.
Of course we don't.
No one has
There's
any time.
There's a lot of stuff to do. We don't have much time to do it.
Let's get into Tiffany Trump, and that sounded weird, but it'll all make sense. So Tiffany Trump is one of those people you feel bad for until she opens her mouth. Here she is opening her mouth to talk to the LGBTQ plus people, and of course getting that acronym completely wrong.
So let me just say how excited I am to be here in this room with probably so many of my friends. I bet I see a few of you already in here. It's such an honor. I love you. It's such an honor to be able to be here and speak truthfully, honestly, and from my heart. I know what my father believes in. Prior to politics, he supported gays, lesbians, the LGBTQIA plus community, okay?
I don't know if I've heard of the LGBTQIA plus.
Thank you. I was going to ask about the IA. Is IA legitimately the initials that are being added or not?
I have not heard of that literally ever in my life.
I always assume it's that I have missed it. Like I missed the memo, but you haven't. So the IA is not legit.
There's an I. There's intersex, but there's not. There's a T. There's a couple T's that people have put in, but it
should be LGBTQI plus.
Yeah, and various other things, but it's like very obvious that she has not really grasped this, and that in that moment it becomes clear that she is like, well, I got to do what Ivanka's doing, whatever she's doing. It's such a sad, like small family problem. She's like, I've never been in the clique, and I want to be now. And Barron's tall, so people know things about him. No one knows anything about me. So sad.
Well, now what? I'm reading all these different books, Michael Cohen's book and the Bob Woodward book, and I lose track of where this comes from, and it might have just been a media report, but there is a report that it's Ivanka that Trump is always feeling you should send into a meeting because guys just can't think straight when Ivanka's in the room.
I'm affected by her when I see her. Yes.
Right. And so you're right. I mean, Laura has to feel like, I can bring some boys to the yard. whatever.
Tiffany.
I don't know.
Yes, Laura,
Tiffany, sorry.
Eric's wife. There's a whole family tree we can go through. I do want to show folks some of the dancing when she did appear.
Okay, so she did bring Boys to the Yard. Let me see it.
She did. She's kissing. There's a weird hand motion and a definite non-understanding of the human body movement situation. Waving happens near your head, not out toward people. And the shoulder coquettishness is just so sad. Now, I would like to compare Tiffany's shimmy shake to her father Donald's shimmy shake, which he did recently. This is a more downward, angry convulsion situation. Whereas
you think you can read a lot of anger into that, can you, Brett? anger and desperation and fear.
I just inhaled part of an olive. I'll be fine. But he did that.
The movie film of Trump.
Movie film Trump. So it's that. He knows he's bad at dancing is the thing. I don't think Tiffany knew she was bad until that moment occurred. Like she's like, I'm confident. She'll learn.
You can make it. You can make bad dancing work for you, but they're not about that.
Exactly, because they're not self-aware enough. You have to be a certain level of self-aware where you're just like, this is bad, and everyone knows it. But they're like, Trump's like, I'm bad, but he literally said he can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and no one would care. So I guess he knows he can be bad and no one knows. So sad. I do want to, in the last few moments that we have, compare him to a previous president, George W. Bush. There's a butt shake happening.
Wow.
How does Trump compare to George W. Bush?
George W. Bush is the real thing, though. He's trying to really sell it. Trump is sort of, his view is, this is beneath me, right? That's always his, I feel, presupposition. This is what they do to bond with the people they're around. I mean, I don't know. George Bush, I can't look at him without thinking of the war in Iraq.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing is like, you have two guys, like Trump is actively crappy to everyone in the universe. And he doesn't care and he knows he's terrible. George W. Bush thinks he's helping folks and being just super Christian. And the problem is, like, George W. Bush was actually funny. And Trump is incidentally funny, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of someone who is genuinely funny and fantastic, thank you, Mark Thompson, for joining us. That's all the time we have on the Happy Half.
It's a good thing because I have to open up another bottle of a classic vintage, and this has been a delightful way to get through a glass or 5 of wine. I love you, Brett. As I say, you always make me smile and laugh in a world that has less smiles and fewer laughs than it used to have. So thank you for that. And thank you for letting me visit.
Tell us about your wildly successful radio show and every way people can find more of your stuff.
You can find me on my podcast, which is called The Edge with Mark Thompson. You have to put the with Mark Thompson in. Otherwise, there are 100 other shows called The Edge. My show that Brett is so kindly including is on KGO Radio. You can find it on the TuneIn app. You can find it on the iHeartRadio app. You can find it at KGORadio.com. It's on KGO Radio. It's just put KGO 810, which is the where it is on the. I'm up against Rush Limbaugh or some crap. Who the hell knows what I'm up against? But we're winning. The ratings are great, so it's really cool and trying to be something of a more progressive voice in all the madness. But thank you for mentioning it. You know how I feel about you. I adore you, and I'd give you a big COVID hug. But fortunately, we're separated, so you don't need to worry about that.
There we go. I have no worries in the world, and you make me feel full of heart. Thank you so much, Mark Thompson. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time on the Happy Half Hour.